Coming up on this episode of The Brain Drain Show.
I'm going to send you $10,000. Customs got hold of it and said, well, what's this, And that's how he got to start Deathbox. Couldn't get the head around the idea that I was a pro. The most impressive trick I ever saw on that wall was Gonz. When he ollied the gap at Meanwhile, he had slippers on. There was crazy stuff going on there. You're talking about people getting mobbed and stuff. Yeah. I hated it all. Gold, man. Got anything else to offer? No. They in the bottle and throw it at you, and they're having and you can hear everything, Blender was there. He was always the original weird guy in skating. He didn't live up to his potential, but at that point I was already the old guy, forcing him to become pro, although he doesn't want to. Mullen doing his stuff in the back and we were skating in the background. I think we're limited in the fact that they were so ugly that nobody bought them. I'm Wurzel, and this has been the Brain Drain Show. Keep watching.
Good evening and welcome to another great episode of The Brain Drain Show. Joined to my left is the one and only Toby. Tell him your name, Toby.
Toby
Richmond Batchelor.
It's not fun. It's not Richmond.
It's not Richmond, but we say this because of his little sausage fingers. But anyway, joined to our left, a very special guest, travelled a long way for this. Joined to our left, do you want to introduce the guest?
It's Wurzel.
Yeah,
I was going to say your full name, but I think it would be more relevant just to call you Wurzel on this.
Yeah, we could do. I haven't been called Wurzel for such a long time. It's very
What? No one in Germany calls you Wurzel now?
They did at the beginning.
Did they?
It's quite funny because Wurzel means roots in German,
right?
Instead of what it means here.
So before we get into it,
it's Duncan Houlton.
Let me say that again. Let's get a round of applause in the studio audience, please. It's Duncan Houlton.
Yeah, you clap yourself, absolutely. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for
making the travel. All the way from Germany.
Yeah,
just for this, right?
Yeah. There's no other reason I was coming to.
Yeah, good.
And it was just
none at all.
Yeah.
None at all.
Well, because we argued on the internet, so obviously I had to come here and correct.
That's it.
Correct the.
That's it. The first person to do it has travelled from Germany to kick ass on this podcast for you Deathbox enthusiasts. So this one's for all you guys in the groups out there.
SC UK and the Deathbox Collectors group, they're going to be all over this.
That's it.
I mean, we would like to get everyone that's involved in Deathbox on at some point, so it was good that it kind of fell into place and you voiced your opinions about the podcast, which was great, and we loved that.
Yeah,
because we were proper like, oh, check this out, and we were there like, which was great.
That's a brilliant situation where I'm criticising you and you're actually happy about it.
Yeah, we find it funny.
Nowadays people they get depressed and stuff, don't they?
Yeah. Well, it's like I said to you earlier, like we've been doing this for over a year now, and that's the first time anyone that I've seen has not talked but had opinions that we found quite funny. So it's great.
Yes.
Nobody says that anymore, but it was like
you were proper slagging us off.
Yeah. Well, not
a
little bit. I could have gone way further.
But the thing with the podcast is to also learn about the guest. Yep. So not only for the people listening, I learned about the guests that I've watched skating for years that I didn't know. So, Deathbox guys, stop sending me death threats, please. We've got him on now. We've got him all the way from Germany. So, do you want to kickstart the episode and just jump straight in?
Just wanted. We asked Sean Goff as well to come on, but he said
he said he will when he's.
He said he lives too far away or something like that, wasn't it? It was like.
Well, Wurzel's here from Germany. Haslam and John Benson came from Canada and America. So, Sean Goff. Where you at?
Haslam came especially from Canada?
Just specifically for this.
Okay,
definitely.
Not for a friend's wedding or anything
Absolutely
like
not for anything else.
Okay. All right. Cool.
One of his mates was getting married in Batchelor.
Oh, right.
Near Matlock, just on the road, so just random.
So he had connections to England. Okay.
It was really weird because I seen him at Southbank and I was like, "Hey mate, are you you're in England, do you want to come on our podcast?" And he was like, "I would, but I've only really got a limited amount of 3 days and I'm going to be in Derby." And I was like, I remember saying to Toby, I was like, what the f*** is he doing? We're in Derby. And then...
I love those coincidences.
Yeah, we set a date and time, didn't we? Like 11 o'clock on a Saturday and he turned up early. Right. He had his board, he was ready to go. Right. And we spoke for like 4 hours, episodes 3 hours or something.
Yeah, it was a good one. Down. Good fun.
Yeah.
Nice dude.
Look, but so far, everyone we've had on in every episode, people are going to enjoy it because people want to learn. Yep. So,
what episode number will this one be, Fraser?
I think this is 28.
27 or 28.
27 or 28.
All right, you've done so many. I only noticed it with Pete. No, I know. I saw a couple of episodes before. I sort of noticed him on the internet. Scrolled past. Sorry.
Yeah,
but
that's what the internet. You know the amount of hours of scrolling past other things I actually do on the internet. Yeah. You can't know everything. That's the thing.
Just one small note to that. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was there was.
This will be 29.
29. Okay.
Episode 29.
They were interviewing this guy who did like code for internet and stuff, and he was saying he had trouble sleeping at night because he was the guy who invented the algorithm which made it possible to keep on scrolling.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay.
And he was like
the death scroller.
Yeah, he was the death scroll inventor, and he was having trouble sleeping because
feeling bad about creating that.
Giving that possibility. All he was doing was inventing something, which is his job. But I mean that's what we do.
Is that what I think people call it now, don't they? When you've scrolled so far, it's doom scrolling or something.
Endless continuous scrolling.
Where you just keep going and you're like, what?
And he made it possible to do that because it used to be the case that you would go down to the end of the article or the post or whatever.
You have to go somewhere else.
And then you'd go back to the feed and then you would choose another one. And it was just like endless.
Yeah, now it's just, and then you look at your phone, you start scrolling at 6 o'clock and it's 8 o'clock and you're like, the hell have I been doing for 2 hours?
It would be nice if I had time to do that. You're very lucky that you got time to do that.
You're the one that had a kid.
Okay.
Shall we jump into this episode finally?
Where did the nickname Wurzel come from?
That's quite interesting. I used to skateboard and BMX at the same time. I'd be going around with my BMX with my board on the back, on my back and with an inner tube around it. And a friend of mine, Ian Osborne, who's a BMXer, and his sister was quite derogative to me because I used to get in dungarees, and she suddenly decided to call me Wurzel because it was Wurzel Gummidge.
Right, so I thought there might be a link.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that was that was sort of, and it stuck,
Yeah.
Everybody in that circle, and then suddenly you're at the point you're walking somewhere, someone asks you what your name is, and you say Wurzel, and it's just
it's just so easy.
Yeah. So, which was quite good for
Sorry, you just got Wurzel Gummidge up on the screen. So yeah, that's what you used to look like, right? Okay, gotcha.
Well, roughly, yeah.
So you're saying you did BMXing and skateboarding. What sort of time scale are we talking here? Because there was a BMX boom in the early '80s, wasn't there? If I remember correctly, it's a bit before kind of my time.
Even the end of the '70s, actually.
Right.
Yeah. You had this situation where. The magazine, the American magazine that everybody used to read was Skateboard.
Yeah.
And that turned into Action Now, going towards the beginning of the 80s. And then you had this situation where you had these action sport guys. That's when action sport, the phrase action sport came out. And you'd have everybody, and I went with everything. I was riding a unicycle, had a roller skates, had a BMX, and was skateboarding, and I had been starting skateboarding in '77. So, and it was all like, I was unemployed, moved out of my mum's house and was living in a flat in Manchester. And I just did everything all day, I'd go back home, get my roller skates on and doing roller skating on ramps and stuff like that. And
can you still ride a unicycle?
Yeah.
You could?
Yeah.
Can we get a unicycle in just so we can see that?
How quickly do you really think I can produce a unicycle?
Put something on Instagram now. We need a unicycle. Wurzel wants to do some unicycling outside. Imagine that. Someone goes, I bet someone's got one in their shed or something.
Yeah,
probably,
100%.
Yeah.
When did you first then sort of commit more to skating, or were you also doing all those other things?
I was committed to skating, and skating was actually the main thing all the time.
Yeah.
For all these things, it was like, it's kind of, you've been skating for a while and you're not bored with it, but you're seeing other things coming up. And BMXing, of course, was interesting because you could do other things with it. And you had this Action Now, it was like, we had this skateboarding magazine, and Action Now came out, and it was like, and it was weird because it had like these fashion things, like you're allowed to wear socks with this. You could wear white the tube socks, but no stripes. Not allowed to have the stripes. And they really dictated fashion. It was really, really funny.
But that was in the magazine?
In an American way. It was American, But then Action Now only lasted a year, I think, something like that. But everybody's reading it. All the skaters who were like, disconnected because we didn't have an internet. We didn't, if you didn't know anyone, if you were up in the north and someone was down the south, you didn't even know about them. There weren't any magazines anymore. There was the ESA skate newsletter, but that would just be like reporting on contests or whatever. There wasn't actually any real communication there, unless you had someone's number, So
different landscape back then.
You're kind of like a little bit isolated as a skater at that point, unless you had a group, which I didn't. And down here, Sean Goff had he had this ramp under a flyway in Oxford, and this ramp was like an old ramp from the 70s, and I wanted to buy it, and then because I was living in Oxford again at that time, because that's where I was born, and suddenly it was gone, and I was like, I wanted to buy that. What's it? Who else bought it?
How big was it? I didn't
know that Sean Goff lived in Oxford and was like still one of the best skaters in the country.
Is that how you connected with Sean?
Kind of, but not really.
Yeah,
because I was BMXing at that time. I turned up at his ramp with a BMX, and he was sort of like,
Was that one of the ramps with no flat bottom? Kind of more of
it was a fiberglass frame with
That's what I was thinking.
Fiberglass surface with a metal frame, and it was actually without, or I think it maybe had minimal flat bottom. And he built it up in this like, it was like you went into this field and it was like the mud was about this deep, and there were cows around and stuff, cow patties and whatever, and you had to like put wellies on to get to the ramp. And he rebuilt it in the middle, and it was under the flyway, so it was like English weather. You could actually skate most of the time when it was raining.
I don't remember seeing that. What sort of year was that?
Oh God, it must have been like 80, 81 around that time.
Yeah, and
he then had lots of contests there, and there were all sorts of legends about they'd camp around the ramp. That was the way it was done nowadays. Because no could afford a hotel, and having 30 people sleeping at Sean's house wouldn't have been a good idea anyway.
Yeah.
And they were apparently someone fell or tried to by jumping off the flyway while they were camping there. All sorts of weird things going on.
Oh no way!
That's insane.
Old stories, and that was in the ESA newsletter as well. The ESA newsletter.
What did they do? Just land in the transition of the ramp, and they were like,
"No, I think they landed in mud or something, and actually survived."
Yeah.
Not quite sure of the details, but that sort of thing was going on. And Sean had this ramp there. And he rebuilt it. I think he put a new surface on it, also on some of it, and then had a roll in and put coping on it, and basically just completely redid it himself.
How big was the ramp?
It was an 8-foot transition, and I think he put a little bit of vert on it.
Yeah,
and that was the standard size at that point. 8 foot with maybe a foot of vert was about the standard.
Did you ever skate Stevenage Skatepark back in the day?
Yeah, lots of times.
Yeah,
I loved
that was like my
Stevenage.
local park where I learned to skate in that.
Yeah,
I've mentioned it before on here, but I started going there. Well, I started in '88. Yeah, I started going there a bit towards the end of that year, '89.
Okay,
just as the vert ramp was getting annihilated and taken apart and
right,
stuff like that. Always
there were big demos there with
the Bones Brigade, the H Street guys went there.
And
Brian Pennington went there as well.
Yeah. There was
actually he commented on something on one of the posts. I can't remember who it was now, but I was like, oh, Brian Pennington. So he had the photo in the pool doing the lip slide.
Yeah, that was crazy. That
coping was,
isn't it? It was that pool was just. It was kinky as fuck. It was terrible, and then the coping was broken off.
Yeah,
so that was pretty crazy. He was really, really talented skater. I don't think he reached his full potential actually.
No,
I think he had other things going on.
But that was the first thing they filled in at Stevenage.
Yeah, right.
Somebody
the
fell
most
in and broke
dangerous
their
thing,
leg.
Can't allow that. Yeah.
There's actually a petition at the minute to save the park.
I noticed that. I signed it. Yeah.
Trying to knock it down. I've been trying to do that for 30 plus years.
It's got a lot of history, and not just. When it was built and stuff, it wasn't actually up there, but there are a lot of the ESA meetings and contests went on there.
Yeah.
In the dead years, from 79 to 82, 83.
Yeah.
So that's got a lot of. There were as crazy things going on there. If it's kind of you you see nowadays how things are controlled and everything's posted on the internet and everything. If we had that amount of information going on when all that stuff was going on, I mean, 80s, we'd all be in prison. There was crazy stuff going on there. I mean, you're talking about people getting mobbed and stuff.
Different landscape back then, though. Yeah, things have changed so much. I mean, you can't do anything. You can't do anything these days, can you? But you can't, But then, probably for a reason. Just on a side note, Dave Allen posted about the petition to save Stevenage Skatepark. Yep. Should probably put a link in this episode about saving that, so people can sign a petition.
We'll put it
in
the bio.
It's doing quite well, but we need they need more signatures. But there's a picture of Dave Allen at Stevenage in the bathtub, the half pipe.
Is it the black and white photo?
Doing a crowd slide. Wig shot it.
Yeah.
And then if you look in the background, there's me on the background in the session with
Your
Dave.
claim to fame.
Tiny little picture in the background, me watching Dave.
Tiny little Toby.
Long time ago.
So you said you were kind of balancing between roller skating, BMXing and skateboarding.
Yeah.
Was there ever a definitive turn where you were just like, I'm just going to skate? And or was you always a little bit of everything?
It was, for a while, it was a little bit of everything, but then it got, I moved from Oxford to Milton Keynes and started, and I was then, spending my time with different people. Yeah. And we were BMXing there quite a bit because it was difficult to skate because there was Milton Keynes, although it's one of the most paved countries in the country with all these redways and the cycleways and stuff. There wasn't actually much to skate, and it was easier to BMX. Yeah. And do stuff like that. But at some point, I guess it must have been 83, 84, something like that. We suddenly we went to London and discovered some of the old skate parks, which I used to skate before as well, and it was like going to Meanwhile 2 was one of the and Southbank. We'd work and get the train after work to Southbank, which was like an hour and a half, and then you'd go and then get the last train back to Milton Keynes to go to work next day. Yeah, and you also had the possibility of getting there. There was no one there, or you get there and it's wet. Because Southbank is right next to the Thames, and you get fog coming in, and then you get there, like you're on the tube, and you think, can skate, and you get there, and it's wet,
damp, So
you just couldn't skate. It was wet.
But it was a lot more open then, wasn't it? Because they've cut a lot of it off now. Southbank.
Yeah. Well, I haven't actually. I went there, I think, about 5 years ago, but I know I think they even rebuilt some of the banks or opened it where there's like a.
They opened. The back half of it, I think, with the banks going down to wall rides. Yeah.
Southbank was just such a. There was so much going on there. When people would visit, when all the pros came over, 85, 86. Yeah. When they were coming over, and it was like, wow, there's someone coming. There was like, Gonz. I mean, there were people grinding the wall. I mean. There were people. The wall was like, the focus. It was
the proving ground.
Yeah, and it was, there were. But I mean, there were people there. There were guys doing rock to fakies on the wall. And not a rock to fakie where you then plop onto the bank, doing a rock to fakie all the way to the truck, coming back down, putting it back on the wall, and
four wheels.
So like, and I remember Natas grinding it was cool because everybody else would like go up and like try and do it and just about get a grind. He did just like a slash grind, and styling it back down the wall, not sort of going, oh, I hope I'm going to make it. It was like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do a slash grind just like in pool.
Yeah, that true Natas style.
Pretty cool. Yeah, and a rock and roll slide as well.
Yeah,
he did a rock and roll slide, which is just like,
I would have loved to have seen like Natas and Gonz skating. I bet you it was unreal.
It was. Gonz was just. He'd turn up, and he was weird. He was like.
It's what everyone says.
Yeah. But he was just in his own world, Yeah. And it was, he'd turn up and he'd do 4 tricks, and then he was done. It was really weird. It was like had this sort of focus. Okay, there's a rail there. I'm going to do my Gonz thing on it. and there's a wall. And the most impressive trick I ever saw on that wall was Gonz, and he had this ollie style where his don't know if I can show this. You like your legs, when he did an ollie, his legs were like that.
Yeah,
he was like so compressed.
Yeah, flat
and he
to the
had
board.
like this. So it looked like a Dave Hackett slash grind in an ollie.
Yeah,
that's what it was like. This style. And he went up to the bank. He was going up and he was like doing ollies in front of the wall. I was like, what's he doing? And then he got it set in his mind, and he just went up and he just like an ollie almost above the wall and landed on the wall and wall rid down. And it was like, his mind worked differently, and that's why he was so revered in the way he did things. Because
so influential.
There was when I was in California, we met Gonz in LA somewhere, and he was doing this. There was like a wallway drive bank, and there was a canyon about 8 feet, and there was a lantern, like a lamppost in the middle of it. And instead of just doing an ollie over it like everybody else did, ollie, I mean, at that point you wouldn't be doing a kickflip over it or anything, but he ollied over it, banged his tail on the thing, and said, "What?" And I said to him, "Why? How did you get that idea?" And he said, "I like the sound."
Yeah,
it was just like, so he was so simple, and so it was. People go on about Gonz for ages and ages and ages, but he was just like, he was a very, very creative child.
Yeah,
he was not. I think he's still not grown up now, which I'm.
Yeah, 100%.
And you see the things he's doing, the boards he's doing, and this exhibition where he was just skating through with the white suit on, and stuff like that. It's beautiful. It really is.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I love it. And having to, when we we say skateboarding keeps us young, but it's actually passion that keeps us young. I'm doing other things now because I can't skate anymore. Mm-hmm. But it's you can see, like you could see in Gonz that he would probably be doing that in 20 years or 30 years or 40 years. You could see that then, because he's just such a passionate person, and so doing these things and mixing the art with skateboarding. It's beautiful. I mean, skateboarding is art, we say, and he was mixing it years ago. It was beautiful. Time. Southbank. We had a session at Southbank. It was Sean Goff, Don Brider,
big up Don Brider,
the Dons,
the Dons,
Don B. We used to say Don B, DOMB.
Yeah,
as one word.
Don B.
He's got a lot of names, and he's a beautiful guy. He's really he's been printing stickers on boards for I don't know how long now in his back
probably
shed.
Close to 120 years or so,
roughly. Yeah. And we had this session, and it was kind of like Sean was always like a blunt guy, like the old blunts. He would do anything to fakie. In the 80s, his run would consist of like hand plants, airs, and blunts, or things to fakie. Yeah. Like, a 50-50 to fakie, grab the board and yank it back in.
Yeah.
And blunts where you just go up, grab the board and pull it back in, or grab it front side, for variation and stuff. And we had a to fakie session on the wall, and it was one of those magic sessions where everybody's inspiring each other, And I think Don B started it off. He did a nose pick in, which is pretty gnarly on that wall. And then I think Sean did a blunt in, which is like, you got this little wall. It's only about like 10 centimeters out, and you're teetering on top of it. Needed a blunt in there. It was you go completely wild. And I think Don B did a nose stall. So he put his board in a nose stall, and then grabbed the board and jumped back in. That kind of thing was going on. I remember I did an axle stall to fakie, so you have to turn 90 degrees and land on the bank. We were just like totally freaking out on going into fakie, and it went on for like 3 hours. So we missed the last train, had to walk to Waterloo or whatever. but it was one of those magic sessions.
Yeah, sessions like that are so rare.
Yeah, and it was at Southbank. It was something about the dark, dank, piss smell,
piss corner.
And it was like, and the, Southbank was wild sometimes. You'd get there and there'll be like, because you had the homeless people there as well, and you'd get there and there would be running fights going on as well. They'd piss in a bottle and throw it at you and stuff, or you'd get there and they were, they've got their sleeping bags stuck together and zipped together and they're having oral sex and you can hear everything.
Sounds like really, I missed the best era.
It was.
You would have fitted in perfectly.
I mean, this is stories collected over 5 years.
Yeah.
To Southbank, but there were Southbank was like it's cold, it's windy. The wind used to really go through there, and you turn up, you'd be skating in like you'd have a t-shirt, a long sleeve shirt, a pullover, a hoodie over it, and then maybe a jacket over that, and you'd be riding with gloves because it's so cold.
Yeah,
and everything. But you'd always you normally in that situation you would think, it's cold today, I won't go there, but you always wanted to go back. It really was magical. I don't know if there are vibrations there or whatever, and I think it was amazing that they saved it.
Because it was going to go for a while.
Yeah. I think it was when I heard about that, I thought, is it worth it? And then I thought back to the sessions. And I think, it was definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Even if it's in a change situation, I think it's. I don't like the fact that there's a quarter pipe there now. I don't think that's the way it should be over there. But
there's a new block there now as well, isn't there? There's a big new mani pad block there too. Yeah.
Well, Southbank was amazing because there were like quite a lot of different things. There was like along the one side there was it was like a wood curb and it got further and further, so it was like a curb cut. But it was made out of wood. It was actual blocks of wood. And it was like the rock and roll slide Nirvana. It was like, because you could go, the further you slid, the higher it got. So it was like, it's like a curb cut, and it got further and further. That was quite amazing. But depending on how the weather was, if it was getting a little bit too damp, then it wouldn't slide. So the first slide, and you'd come up from it and ollie up and slide onto it, and then it was on this side there was like sharp cobblestones.
Yeah.
So if you flew over there, it was like multiple injuries in one. So that was pretty wild. But Southbank was amazing. Meanwhile, too, was another one of the thing, because it was kind of like half pipe riding. You had you had this one small bank with rounded lips. Yeah. And the gap, the Gonz gap, as they called it. And they had the other side where you had a grindable lip as well, which people tended to repair and stuff. And it was like you'd have all these people doing all these runs where it was a real, like, almost a choreographed run, because you'd do a rock and roll slide and grinds and sliding on the lip and 360 slides and 540 slides. And we had really nice competitions there with Steve from did the Smell of Death. Did you ever hear about those?
I remember Smell of Death in early skateboard mags and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, Steve, there was this, we used to call him American Steve. He's now living in Italy. I've got him on Instagram and stuff.
Italian Steve.
And whenever he's the best troll ever. When I post about my stand-up paddling and stuff, and there's all these people say, "Hey, it's really, really cool what you're doing, Duncan. Yeah, you're inspiring me and whatever." And he just like posts something like, "Oh, not another fucking river." And it's like, yeah, I remember that. And he was like the unbelievable mega stoner. And I seem to remember he had an indie hanger with like a thing on it, and he'd use it like a chillum. Yeah. And he'd be just like, his talking was limited because it was always sucking on the chillum. It was, and it was just so. It was like the defined California stoner.
Yeah.
But he was, but he had, he organised all these contests and got things going and got people to go to punk concerts and stuff. So he was like, it wasn't like he was just like stoned all the time and not doing anything. He was really involved in the punk scene and the skate scene, and He was very interesting individual. I'd like to see him again, actually.
We should probably let the listeners know about the Patreon that we're starting. Do you want to give them some information about that?
Yes, I will. So from as little as £2 a month, you can become a Patreon member and get access to uncensored, uncut episodes, behind the scenes shiz, bonus OG episodes. What does that mean, Forde?
Like the episodes that we used to do, where it was just me and Toby doing reviews, fan mail, and anything else in between. And Toby's favourite, Stinker of the Week.
Stinker of the Week is back, but only on Patreon episodes. You will also get outtakes, early access to new merch when it launches, general skate nerdery, and much, 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 much more.
Make sure you check out all the information in the description, follow the links, make sure you subscribe, become a member, and enjoy the rest of the episode.
Who was around taking photos back then of these sessions at Southbank and stuff?
TLB was there sometimes when there was a Tim Leighton Boyce from.
Yeah.
He used to work for the original Skateboard Mag, and then he had Read and Destroy.
Yeah.
We need to get TLB on the show.
Yeah, I'd love to.
TLB, he definitely has stories to tell.
Yeah.
That's and from another perspective, of course, because he wasn't really skating, but he was going with. I mean, I remember spending time with him. When he was going to a contest, quite often he'd pick me up in Milton Keynes, and because he was going most of the time going north, there was something going on up there, so Scotland or whatever, and then you had Paul Summan, who had the shop. What was it called? In central London.
M Zone.
No, that was the other guy. No, Paul Summan had this.
Slam City.
Slam City, yeah.
Yeah.
That used to be in Lambeth Road or Ladbroke Grove.
Yeah.
It used to be there, and they had a punk record store
down below
where they had signings there. There was lots of punk bands visiting there and stuff.
Yeah.
It was quite a scene. And then they moved there. So Paul Summan used to take a lot of photographs. There was another guy. Oh God,
was it Meanie, the other photographer?
Meanie was to do with skateboard, with the magazine Skateboard, the second generation.
Yeah.
He was, I think, he was based in Bristol. With
that would make sense. Yeah, there was a lot of Bristol coverage around then.
Yeah. And then you had Mike John. Mike John's just such is this kind of guy when you meet him, he just like you have to smile with him. Mike John smiles and the world smiles with him.
Yeah.
He's a beautiful guy. He's my one big memory of him was there was this big this contest in Southsea.
Yeah.
And there was Craig Johnson there, and I think the Powell guys as well. Yeah, the Powell guys, and it was a big contest. There were lots of people there, and it was sort of this time where you'd have a half pipe contest and 1,000 people turned up to watch. Especially in Southsea, because there was a scene there. And I just remember everybody was going on about what good photos Mike John had done at this contest. And most of them were taken between his legs while he was dancing. Like with a wide angle lens, and he was just a fisheye lens and just going bam like that, and he was dancing most of the time.
Yeah.
And it produced some of his best photos.
What, on top of the vert ramp?
Oh yeah. On the platform, Platform was big enough, so yeah. And that was pretty cool. That contest was cool. I was sponsored by Converse at that point, and they sponsored Lucian Hendricks as well.
Great skateboarder.
And we could get on there. There's some stories there. Big one as well.
We want to hear
but
him.
I think probably Sean Goff needs to tell that story. We'll see. We were sponsored by Converse, me and Lucian and a few other people, and they brought out these amazing tie-dyed shirts, which were like, so it was some kind of like freaky print on it, and they were oversized. It was like short arm, and it came down to here on me, and that was a medium, you know.
Yeah.
But everybody wanted these shirts, and we would. I think Lucian won the contest as well.
Yeah.
There was all this. I wrote. I remember writing. I'll see if I can send you a copy of the magazine. I wrote a report on that contest, and everybody was going down on the fact that Lucian had won because he beat Craig Johnson, and it's like, sorry, he skated better. He skated way better. I mean, Craig Johnson has his style, and he's he's a big guy and he makes the ramp shake. But that doesn't mean you win the contest, just because he rides for Zorlak. I hated Zorlak. Zorlak was the whole image. I thought it's the typical American, skulls and shit, man. And he's like, and anything else? You got anything else to offer? No, we haven't. I mean, the artist was an amazing guy, but he did the same thing 20,000 times.
Yeah. It's a very niche brand.
AC/DC, AC/DC are fucking brilliant, but they're limited in what they do. And everybody wanted these T-shirts. It was like they were people going wild for them. And I think I had 3 of them, and Lucian had 3. And Lucian sold his for some ridiculous price. It was like 50 quid, and you can have one because they're limited and you can't get them anywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, and I think I sold one to a friend. But that was an amazing contest. It was like, And
what shoes were Converse making to skating at that?
Just the All Stars.
The thing was this was the time where you had people were skating in All Stars. Gonz was skating in not All Stars. Air Jordans, and it was like it was like an open secret, but the little kids didn't know it. People were buying Air Jordans to skate. They didn't know that people were taking the sole out and putting in another sole in and wearing them in one size smaller, because otherwise your feet would be running. You'd put like a thin sole inside. Yeah. And everybody's doing that, but kids were buying them and they couldn't skate because the sole's about this thick. Yeah. And it doesn't move, and you've got no feel for the board whatsoever. And it was kind of like a big, nowadays it would be posted on the internet, what's going on there. But nobody knew.
Shoe secrets.
They were all buying. I mean, Gonz was, he started using Air Jordans, and I don't know if he got any money for it. I think it was just like the shoes he had. I mean, he'd sometimes when he ollied the gap at Meanwhile, he had I don't know what they were, like slippers on. They were like felt slippers. Like a sole about that thin.
Doesn't surprise me with him.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, I mean, there were, what would it be, 100 people there who were there, who witnessed that. Yeah. And it was, that was quite amazing. Because he just turned up, he did a bit, and he said, where can I get something to eat? And then he left, He just turned up, ollied the gap and went.
Got something to eat and went home.
Yeah.
Because there's
Gonz,
the iconic photo of Blender doing the layback out of I don't know if it's just a bowl or a U-pipe. If you can look that up, Fraser. I think that's like 86 or 87, and he's got these on. Yeah. Like these fast breaks. Yeah. And that's the reason I love the shoe so much, because and he also does his street start to the Tempe runway, spray painting the wall, and he's in the same shoes. Yeah. So I've got multiple pairs of these shoes.
It's amazing how these like shoes or stickers or whatever bring back memory. And I think that's the reason why people so love stickers, because it's easy. You've got it and you can collect it, and it's and you've got like an iconic piece of art there. It's cool. But the shoe thing was really, that was before the robot shoes started, where you had it went down to low tops, and then they started getting fat, really fat. Like you thinking you haven't got enough space on the board for them, and it was and then you had the wide trousers, the long cut off, so they were fat. Threads
funny
hanging
times.
Out and short as well, that was really weird era. Long socks, short trousers, but like this wide,
huge.
I mean, there's a video of
that's the one.
Yeah.
That picture, and he's
Britain.
in the fast breaks, like.
Yeah. You know what that?
I
you
love
know what that trick's called?
I love that picture.
I mean, layback rollout, isn't it?
No.
What is it?
A layback roller is where you do a frontside grind.
Yeah.
And you put your hand down and you roll over to the tail, and then you go in, and that's it. That position is very difficult because it can hurt. You have to like stretch quite a lot. That's a handout.
Yeah.
It's called a handout.
Right.
And he goes like does kind of it's kind of like a roll up. Put your hand down and go in like that, which is also a moment of death. You know, am I going to or not?
They're a lot easier to go into fakey because your body's going around that way. I've only done a handful of them where you go in forward because you're going down at that angle, but you're also contorted into.
You have to commit. You have to commit in a weird position.
But when I saw that picture with these shoes, I was like, "Holy shit! What shoes are they?" And
that's the things you remember, isn't it?
Yeah, and
nostalgia, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's my computer background at home. But just little things like that, like those shoes. Yeah. If I skate in shorts with those shoes on, I'm like, oh, it feels like Blender.
Did you ever
Blender was another.
Did you ever skate with him, Blender?
Yeah. I remember skating
lucky.
with him. He actually said to me, "I like your trick," which was like, you know, that was fanboy.
What was your trick?
They had it was the NSC Birmingham. This was a really interesting contest because there were lots of things going on. There was a half pipe contest and there was a street contest. But then they had a banked slalom contest as well. But it was, I mean, it wasn't really banked. It was long quarter pipes. Mm-hmm. But that was pretty cool. And Blender was there, and Steve Size was there, and a few other people. But Blender was doing his they had 2 quarter pipes going up onto the wall, so you could like wall ride between them and stuff. Yeah. And I don't know what Blender was. He was doing. He was going up backwards on the quarter pipes were about 6 feet, 8 feet apart. Yeah. And he was going up backwards on fakey up the wall and then doing a layback without actually doing it. Like just laying back without turning, you know, because he was going backwards anyway. Yeah. And then doing a layback over to the other one. It was like
and coming back out to regular.
Yeah,
so
just staying in the same position, but doing a layback on the wall. You know, it's like pretty. And with his body, the way his flexibility and the way, and he's massive.
I was just about to say, he seems like another guy that's tall.
Yeah.
Like he seems like a unit.
Yeah, he's not a natural skateboarder because most of the natural skateboarders who were like fast and powerful and really going high and everything were pretty small. Hazoi was small. Caballero's tiny.
Small. Guerrero was pretty small. Tommy,
Nicky Guerrero, or not Tommy Guerrero was small. Yeah,
Nicky Guerrero on Powell.
Yep,
he was small,
a little bit bigger, average size. But I mean, you know, all the real power guys. Chris Miller wasn't that big. Wasn't that big. You know, and so when Blender skate, it was sort of like, you know, Craig Johnson when he skates the ramp shakes. Yeah. I mean, that was crazy.
Ben Schroeder,
the whole ramp skate just because one guy skating. You know?
Yeah.
But it was really weird. When he skated, it was sort of like you got this. He's really big. He's like he must be 6 foot. But he'd like do a hand plant and so contorted and so like completely over here, and you think, how did he do it?
Yeah,
you know, it's just incredible. And it was just iconic, just like Gonz. You know. Very invested in being weird, but he was weird. It was not trying to be weird.
He's been like that ever since, really. And
he was always the original weird guy in skating. Actually,
he's cool as fuck.
Yeah,
I've always been a fan ever since.
Blender's cool as fuck.
He's just one of the people that when you meet, you like them, without seeing all the rest of it. You know, it's
like being in their presence. You know, like his GNS footage part. I've been rewatching that.
Yeah.
It's quite long as well, isn't it? He's destroying the spine on that mini ramp.
Yeah,
he looks like he's having fun.
It was. I think the era. Well, I've lived through pretty much all the skateboard eras, but the era, the 80s in England, we were very, very, or in Europe as well, we were very. There were lots of guys coming over from America, and there was a lot of stuff going on there. A lot of people. At that point, it was like, you know, the Americans were the best, and that was it. You know, there wasn't any. Things have changed. You know, I mean,
it was still like that up until probably late 90s and
mid
to late 90s.
I mean, Moley. I mean, he didn't live up to his potential, but there was a few E's. Flashbacks.
Have you spoken to Alex recently? Or
I haven't really. I talked to a little bit on social media, but he isn't someone who replies all that much, and I'd actually need to call him.
Yeah.
Do you know where is he still in the States? Because we hear that he's back here. Yeah. He's in the States because we'd like to get him on, but we never know where he's actually living.
I'll contact him. Jeremy's in contact with him.
Yeah.
And stuff. But he got married.
Yeah.
Which is he was kind of living this single lifestyle and so on. He's I think he's quite a bit young. He must be at least heading for 50 now. I think he must be 45.
Yeah.
So he married this girl, and it looks like a really nice relationship. Really like totally. They go camping, and it looks like a really nice thing. But I didn't really see what was going on there with Alex. I mean, I used to skate with Alex, and we used to have fun, and I was at that point I was already the old guy, if he's 14 then it's but I was guy, I guess 25, 26, and he was 14, and we for a while we were teaching each other tricks, but then that changed quickly. When he started doing his willy grinds and stuff like that and handrails. I remember going skating with him in Oxford once. We were doing some footage for the Deathbox video.
Yeah,
and it was just, and I thought he's made such a jump. It was just because he was at the beginning. It was like kids are. He hasn't quite got the muscular ability and but then it's like he got to 14, 15, and it was like wow. It was just
because he turned pro for Deathbox. I think wasn't he 15 or
there
was an ad actually, wasn't it? That said Alex Mole 14 3/4. I think it was. Pro. And he's doing the 1 foot over the trash can, isn't he?
Yeah. It was. And in that advert, I think it's the Jeremy forcing him to become pro, although he doesn't want to and stuff.
Yeah.
That was the ads were from Mac, who was.
There we go. 14 3/4.
14
yeah.
Oh, it wasn't a 1 foot. What shoes is he wearing there? They look like
nice. That's Converse. He was on Converse as well. The big fat Converse ones. I can't remember what they were.
How did the Converse thing happen?
Through Shane O'Brien.
Right.
Shane O'Brien knew it was another. Shane O'Brien was he was on 70s skater, and he spent a lot of time at. He was one of the iconic Southbank skaters, and Meanwhile too, and whatever. And he used to ride at Crystal Palace. He was a good vert skater. And he was in with TLB and RAD, and he used to help with the editing, and he'd always pick the best hand plant photo where the biggest Santa Cruz sticker was in the foreground, and we'd sort of like Shane, it's pretty cool, repping for Santa Cruz because he rode for Santa Cruz. He was Phil Burgoyne, who was also a Crystal Palace skater from skating. He was a real big, powerful skater, like really good at hand plants, stuff like that. He worked for Converse, and he was actually the advertising manager or something like that. So he was actually doing the team, and it was really that was quite funny. We were, I think Mullen came over, and Mullen was. Rodney Mullen, for people who don't know what I'm talking about.
If you don't know what he means by Mullen,
then you
need to turn this podcast off right now.
Go and research right now, and you can come back when you know. Pretty much invented the skate ollie. But Mullen came over for it, and we were on. It was some Saturday morning program, which I remember because there were all these different pop songs going on, and we were like fitted in between, with it. And there's Mullen doing his stuff in the back, and we were skating in the background. And we got a package of these Converse that were personally bought, and we had to promise to put the shoes on 2 minutes before we were only in the background,
or something.
And they were horrible. They were like with drips on them, like 80s, with like splatters of ink on them. They were horrible. They're black with they were discovered. only allowed to put them on 2 minutes before so they didn't get dirty or
didn't get trashed.
Were they like some limited edition?
I think
art
I think
thing?
I don't think they were limited, but I think they were limited in the fact that they were so ugly that nobody bought them.
Yeah.
So it's like
Was Converse one of your first sponsors? What were your first sponsors before Deathbox kicked up?
Deathbox was my first sponsor. Oh god, that's going down a wormhole there. I'll leave that for a bit. Deathbox was kind of my first sponsor, and I was in America at Brand X working there.
Okay, rad.
Jeremy was working at Brand X, and Jeremy was a friend of mine from skating in Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
And he moved to America, and he like wrote to Brand X and said, "Oh, I'd like to come work with you." And somehow it worked out. And then he was working there for a year.
That's how you used to do things back in the day.
That's how. I mean,
so good.
Yeah, it was amazing. But he's Jeremy's like I think he's an engineer. And he's like very precise in the way he does things, and he's good at planning things and stuff. So he helped them actually streamline their process there with printing boards and stuff. And he said, "Hey, come over." And I sort of like saved money, and then I came over. And unfortunately, when I came over, I was there for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then he went back to see his mum and whatever, and got deported on the way back. He came back in. And they found out that he'd been working illegally, because that was a standard thing in the 80s, where you go to America and work at a skateboard company illegally, and then you could like skate there and stuff and spend time there. That was kind of the way we did things. But unfortunately, they found out about it, and they deported him. So he came back, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm not getting in. I have to go back." And that's how he got to start Deathbox, because he'd learned quite a lot there.
Yeah.
And learned how to print boards, which is the most important thing. So I was there for another 6 months and did all sorts of work. Didn't really do much, stayed in the same place, and I could have, I would have liked to go and see the Grand Canyon, or, we went to San Francisco for a contest. And I did fairly well in contests there. So when we came back, it sort of like all melted together in a pub in the East End in London. We decided to start the company, me, Mac, and Jeremy. And Mac was like, he had all the ideas, and he can draw anything. He can just, it's amazing. It was just like, and it's like, it comes out of his soul. It's not like, I learned to draw. It's like, he can just draw anything. But he was and is, I think, completely mad. His father was a Scottish, I think he was a reporter, and reporters in the 80s, that time, like, you're just completely crazy, and he'd be like reporting on, I don't know, Prince Charles and stuff like that, and they'd be all doing all sorts of weird, so he was like a dodger and dealer,
Yeah.
And Mac was kind of coming out of that, and it was really weird when you'd visit Mac at his, he was like a split personality. When he walked through the door, he'd have like a East London accent, not quite Cockney, but like in that direction. And you'd walk through the door, and while he was walking through the door, in the middle of the sentence, it would change to broad Glaswegian. And it was crazy. It was crazy. And he was, I was just a mad on. We had times there we had this meeting, we decided to do Deathbox, and then the problem started with Mac. Because he had this like, he did the first graphic he did was the teapot, and it was like everybody who saw it.
There you go.
Everybody who saw it just said,
so
this
good.
is crazy. It's so take this idea in your head and just throw it onto the paper.
Yeah,
and it was
it's incredible.
And a lot of problems started with that, because you see here it says copyright Deathbox Skateboards. Yeah. But there was a lot of arguments about that and stuff, and he says it's his, but he got paid for it, and it was like kind of.
There's all the legal things now, isn't there? Yeah. Do you still hear from Mac, or?
Haven't. It's difficult to talk to Mac. It always was, but it's even with all the communication possibilities that you have nowadays, it's still different. I talked to him on the phone when there was a Deathbox 30-year thing in where they did something, and while there was Jeremy gave him to me on the phone, and we talked for a while. But so we had this meeting. We did the first graphics, and at that point, Jeremy was living in Buckingham with his parents, or with his mother, and he had a garage, and we did everything in the garage. So it was until my board came. We decided to do the company, and we decided, of course, that Mac, because he was just such an innovative skater, so much so that Gonz would talk about him for hours.
Yeah.
That's how far he was
amazing.
ahead with his stuff. You imagine that someone, we're talking about early 80s, but actually he was doing it before that. He would ride at Meanwhile too. He'd turn up and he'd just do hand plants, and he'd do McTwists on banks, grabbing early. It was just and it was just his determination and real bloody mindedness that would make it possible for him to do that. He would just go fuck, and he'd he'd just all these tricks. I mean, gymnast hand plant to fakie on 45-degree banks. Yeah, you have to be so you have to want that.
Oh yeah,
really badly.
100%.
And he, I remember, he was the first one to do a channel at Meanwhile. Early grab, mute grab, early grab.
Going backside or front side?
Backside.
Yeah.
If it's front side, it's not a mute.
Slob. Is it not?
Yeah, it's a slob. Yeah. But I just wanted to say that front side mute is not a thing. If anybody has a problem with that, we can go outside. No problem. We got to the point where we got the sticker. We got the teapot. Mac had done the Wurzel graphic. There was one thing there was when we had this meeting about, well, I say meeting.
I was going to say,
when we met in the pub.
Yeah.
In the East End.
Out.
Yeah. No, we were actually wanting to discuss this situation because Jeremy had been doing different products. Can't remember what it was called. He had a really weird name, and he did seat clamps for BMX and speckled. He'd hand paint them.
Okay, that's an interesting endeavour.
And Fox, it was something like Foxy's Products or something, Funky Fox or something like that. I'll have to think about it. And he'd do seat clamps and things like that, and because he'd do that at work, after
on the side,
everybody had gone home.
Because he was an engineer by trade, wasn't he?
Yeah. And he did different products like that. He did. So he was we were ready to do this, and there was we had the first argument. Which as soon as you've got more than one person, you have arguments, and it was obvious to us because I was talking about Max skating and how far ahead he was of anybody else in his own way, kind of like Gonz, and Gonz is going, Mac, you're amazing, and it was obvious to us that he would have the first board, and he said no, and it was Mac. He was quite an insecure person, and he didn't want it because it was too much for him. He was not into it, and he'd say no, we're just going to have the one. I thought, I've won a few contests, but I'm not pro, and I got a lot of shit for that as well. It was pro is like the sort of
what
pro.
For turning pro.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't really turning pro. I was just I was the way I see it, always promoting our product that we wanted to do, and that was kind of the logical way. The way to do it, because Mac was a stubborn bastard, that was the way it was, and so that was weird. It was really weird because slagging at that point was at height in skating, because it was, you had when you have a small group of skaters and stuff, there's quite a lot of slagging going on, but the scene got bigger and bigger and bigger, so the slagging grew with it. So it was at quite a high point. So I had to put up with quite a lot of stuff like that. So it was decided that I was going to be the pro,
the first pro of Deathbox,
which was weird for everybody. And I think Matt came up with a name as well. Yeah, which was quite iconic, and it's quite amusing that it's been taken over by Jeremy gave them permission to do it for Dave Hackett to do the Deathbox.
In the yeah, because I came across that and I was like, "What's this shit?" I love Dave Hackett.
I mean, Deathbox with the Anarchy A, it just looks so shit. If he'd had a better graphic guy doing the stuff for it, would have been okay. But it was just, I mean, honestly, it was shit.
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, because a lot of people get confused between the two. Like, I've got no interest in that Deathbox. I'm interested in.
But that name is owned by David Hackett in the US.
In the US.
And
he's a great skateboarder.
Yeah,
Dave.
Dave Hackett he's a really nice guy as well. If you look at his Instagram and Facebook, I think he's recently got married.
I've got him on Facebook.
I think he's even older than me. He's he might even be 65. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's I mean he's having a wonderful life, you know, which is quite amazing. I mean, you see some of the people who went through that era, they're not having a wonderful life or no life at all.
Yeah.
Dwayne Peters.
Yeah.
He's still on that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah.
I'm surprised he's lasted this long with how he's been.
I mean, I went to a I think it was the Huns we got this iconic little concert place near to me in Germany, and everybody went through there. Nirvana went through there. The Melons, Melancholy, what are they called? Melancholy were there. All the 7 Seconds, all the iconic punk bands went through there in this place, and went there and saw saw him with I think it was the Huns. I'm not sure. Because he changes every 5 or 6 years. He gets a new band going and stuff, which is quite amazing. But he went to this concert and he's like totally going for it. Yeah. And he said, you know, he's fairly old too, and his body's completely fucked. You can see that in the way he walks. Like, you know, he's got the skater's walk.
Yeah,
you know, just like and just totally full bore 2 hours. Shouting in the microphone with his wife next to him playing bass with tits like that, and you think he is really, really, really living the life. Yeah, you know, just incredible. And he's one of those guys. You know, I mean, there are people who say that, you know, people who swear all the time are actually more intelligent. Well, I think that's just an excuse. I don't know where that comes from. You know, people say that people who swear all the time are people who express themselves very well.
I've seen that quote.
But it's a bit weird, but he's an embodiment of that. It's just like he uses the word fucking as a comma. You know? Yeah. And it's I don't know, it's just incredible. You can see that, like, he's a cliche. He's a living cliche of punk and whatever, you know. Yeah. I mean, I see punk is actually just a mythos. It was just invented by somebody, and everybody went, yeah, this is brilliant. Yeah. Without thinking about what it actually was or what it stood for. And of course, anarchism and doing something different and living your life different, you know, is amazing. But he's just like, that is it. Yeah. You know, there's no question about it, and that is his life. And that was there must have been about 8 years ago now, and I think he's got a new band now, and he's coffee spit up from his wife and whatever. She was a porn star as well. I was just thinking, you know, I'm going to look this stuff up. This guy is, you know, has been living punk since you know, 1979.
Looks like he's just crawled out the ground.
He spent all the contests in America. He spent all his time shaving people's heads. You know, that was what they did in the. If you look at the old contests, there were and you know, there was sort of like and spitting on Tony Hawk. You know, I mean, you know, that's how he is, and just keep and he's totally in there, and you think, oh, that's absolutely amazing. You know, yeah, incredible. But yeah. Well, how did I get there? To
So we're talking about being in Jeremy.
I go down wormholes. I'm warning you. You know, you just call me back when it gets to
Jeremy's garage.
Yeah, exactly.
And being the first pro, and people not necessarily liking that, and people dissing. Well, it was slagging. Went direct to Dwayne Peters. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. So we had this. There was this guy called. Andy Shohara. He was a BMX pro. Yeah. And he lived near to us. It was like the Oxford Banbury crew. He lived there. His father was stationed here. And he offered to get the boards transported from the first batch of boards, 100 boards, which was a really big thing for us, to get them transported. And of course, this took ages. And then we were saying, well, where's the board? What's going on? And it seemed like there was some skater who had noticed this, he was going out because his guys were in the army, and they said they could get it transported for us for nothing, these boards. And obviously some guy in the army there was a skater and thought, I'm having those, and they were gone. We didn't get them. So it was like, we thought, we're going to launch the board and we've got the graphics going and screens are done and everything, and the boards weren't there, It was
never turned up.
So frustrating. And
did you ever find out who it was who would...
No, they just didn't. They were then officially said, okay, we've lost it. They're gone.
With that first shipment of boards, had you already selected your shape?
Yeah, the shape. It wasn't blanks. It was finished boards.
Right. So you'd given them the spec at the factory.
In a garage, there's only a certain amount of stuff that you could do in the garage because you want to print there and you want to do.
But you knew what you wanted shape-wise. And spec.
It was an evolution of a board, which me and Jeremy did the shape.
It wasn't the one we're talking about there, is it? Was that the second or?
No, that's the same shape.
Right.
But the big thing was the 3-point nose, which you can't really see there because it's worn down a bit. It was the 3-point nose, which Jeremy did at Brand X. There was a. I can't remember what the board was called, but he did that. That was the first generation of that, and then we did that. And it was, you had the hip bumps, to
I love a hip
keep
bump.
your foot on when you're doing a hand plant. Theory, and the wide tail and stuff like that. And it was a fairly mellow concave, and we got it. I can't remember where we got them from.
Didn't Pete mention it? He said where the wood factory was.
That was later on. There was one in. That's another story.
How did it come to making the shapes? Did you paper them out and send them or fax them or send dimensions?
Jeremy was like totally on that.
Or did he travel?
No, he was
he was
an engineer and he did technical drawings and whatever.
He would have drawn it by hand.
Yeah. I had my input on it, but he actually was pretty much the shape that he had at Brand X with a few refinements.
Nice. Okay.
Because I was riding that. I've been riding that at Brand X anyway.
Okay. So anyway, those boards went missing. Somebody stole those.
Yeah. We then eventually got the second batch of boards because the American Army paid for the we got it paid for
the missing.
It went on the insurance.
Oh, nice!
Quite
amazing.
Get it sent for nothing and
paid out by the army.
Yeah, which was quite amazing because it was officially his dad's shipment.
Yeah.
So we actually got the batch of boards, and I went over to Jeremy's in Buckingham. I was living in Milton Keynes, like 10, 15 miles away, and spent the weekend. Spent the weekend printing the first batch of boards.
I bet it was fucking exciting.
It was. I mean, for me, it was doubly exciting because it's my board. It's my first professional, my pro skater. I was a pro skater.
Did you keep the first one out of the run for your own use?
I forgot something now. Yeah, that's completely. That's another. I have to tell it now actually because what we did was because we couldn't. This was in between because we didn't get the batch of boards.
Yeah.
Jeremy came up with the idea of doing one board that I could ride.
Okay.
But he couldn't do the screens because the screens were dependent on the concave, and when you get the concave, then you make the screens with the right at that point. Anyway, nowadays it's a little bit different, but So we bought. He bought from Slam Skates. He bought a Schmidt Sticks. I think it was a Tom Groholski, which was big enough to cut the shape out of. Cut the shape out of it, lacquered it, and did it on, and hand sprayed the color shapes, and then we did a sticker because we done the black run. We did a sticker to stick over it, so it was actually a sticker. So you got this situation where I had this board which I could actually ride and actually promote my board, which hopefully would actually exist at some point. And wasn't allowed to do any board slides or anything like tail slides.
Damage
like,
the graphic.
Be careful when you drop in, It was just like crazy situation.
How long was the board lasting you around those times?
quite a long time.
Yeah.
You had rails on it.
Yeah.
So, you're not scratching it up completely. And it wasn't, at that point, nobody was using a tail saver or nose. A couple of people still had nose savers and stuff. And but it would, I think I made it like last 3 or 4 months. I've still got it at home. I wanted to bring it with me.
Sorry, can you send us a photo of that so we can
no
put it
problem.
in when we're talking about it?
Yeah, send us photos.
And it's kind of like, it's this sticker and it's all shredded, but you can still see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
And that's kind of what I wanted to do was bring that and the new board that Graham Hill did for me.
We can get the images of those. Though.
Yeah, I can send you those. Yeah. And that was that was kind of weird situation for a while, and then we actually got the boards at some point. And coming back to I spent this, I think, 3 days in Jeremy's garage, and at some point we'd got the boards finished, and it was we worked all night. You'd have a cup of coffee and stuff. We worked like 3 days straight to print the boards. And at some point we came out with the first board into the birds are tweeting 6 o'clock in the morning. You come out and look at the first board in the daylight. And it's like, just amazing experience, because you've got all through this process of, working at Brand X and all that stuff and everything, and then think, we're going to do it ourselves. I mean, Jeremy was the driving thing with that, but it was like just amazing. It was, we got this like skateboard that we produced.
Yeah.
We didn't make it, but we printed it and we produced this thing. And that was quite amazing. And
was there at that point, being the first dropper boards and obviously the delay with the first batch getting stolen, was there much demand for the board already?
Not really.
So it was a case of you were making them and then you were going to go and sell them.
Yeah, I mean, we got we got rid of the first 100 batch, whatever. And it was never the scene wasn't big enough that you would be selling thousands and thousands and thousands. But it was, and you didn't have the hype that you have nowadays. If you had a hype, it was like the whole world or nothing. You didn't have like these mini hypes that we have now. It's like post something on Facebook and 1,000 people buy it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it was a completely different time then. But I mean, just from my perspective of being 10, 11 when Deathbox was kind of happening, we had we lived in rural Hertfordshire, kind of half an hour from Stevenage. Yeah. There was 4 of us who skated. And we all had Deathbox boards.
Oh, really?
It was like that was the thing,
Deathbox scene.
Yeah, and it was like that was the brand that, because it was on, you guys were always in the mags.
Yeah.
He had the full page ads.
Yeah.
It was like that was the most prominent thing that we could relate to because it was British and was us. And
it was a weird time, because it was just us and Pacer.
Yeah. And Pacer was kind of a bit shit, wasn't it? I mean, Pacer, you could go round to. You'd have I guess, not entirely action sports based, but there'd be like fishing stores that would sell Pacer stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that's where you got it.
They had their distribution, which they used, that they'd actually sell quite a lot of boards, and it was just like people going to buy a fishing rod. No,
it would be like general sports stores would have Pacer wheels, acid drops and stuff.
The boards were unfortunately, really bad quality. And Gary Lee would, he was like the only one who would always have 4 or 5 boards with him, because he'd have to, do a Madonna too hard and the tail would snap off,
And I guess that at that point, because graphics weren't changing as quickly as they were now, it was in his best interest to always have his board with the graphic, because that's how you sell boards. And the Gary Lee, when the bathtub, I mean, that graphic is amazing. In
itself, it's one of those things that's like really cheesy when it came out, but became iconic because partly because it's so cheesy. Because you get if you have something that's cheesy and that's a bit shit, it gets attention. Yeah, and it's like in certain situations, there's no bad advertising. But there's a really funny story about that.
Go on.
There was Pacer also did these hogs.
Yeah, Pacer hog shoes,
and their hogs was like this really, really incredibly ugly wild boar. In a round, it was about, there were stickers that they would put on the ramps that were about this big. And it was really, really bad. It wasn't art. It was just like someone doing what the guy said. Oh, do me a hog that looks really ugly. Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Here's your £50. I'm gone. And we met this. I don't know where it was. I think it was in Swansea. We met this guy, and you have these people who think something's iconic and they think it's classic, and they need to have a full width tattoo on the back with it. And he was just recovering from the tattoo. He'd had it done in full colour across the full width of his back.
No,
the full hog.
Like a muscle guy, a bodybuilder. And the hog. I don't know what happened to that guy. I hope he has a nice life, but
I hope he got it covered.
You're in a situation where you can't laugh at him. He's taken like 5 days of immense pain, or even longer, probably 2 weeks, of immense pain to get this thing tattooed on his back. You can't laugh at him.
And they were shit shoes as well, weren't they?
Can we find the Pacer Hog, see if you can see any graphics?
Pacer Hog's skate shoes. I just remember the ad being really shit. Yeah. And like everyone who we knew skated, everyone had Pacer acid drop wheels.
Yeah.
They came in like the wrapper.
I don't think they were that bad actually.
I think they were okay. They were pretty. I remember them being like £15 a set, and at the time it was that or
is that the Hog?
Slime balls.
Yeah, I mean that's a classic.
Yeah, what a pair of amazing feet.
Yeah, it's just incredible.
Who's the skaters on that? I can't see from here. Who we got?
That's Gary Lee.
Goffy and Bottlehead. That's what it says on the thing.
The Abrook brothers. They rode for Zorlak. Yeah. They had connections with Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pete was talking about those guys, I think.
One of them owns a brewery now, did he say, or some kind of...
In Texas?
Yeah,
that's... I think Barry's in Texas and Mark... No, the other way around. I think Mark's in Texas and Barry still lives in... I think he still lives in Southsea or something.
Right, yeah.
There was kind
Pacer.
of like a Texas scene at Southsea Skatepark. There's another guy, Tracy. He lives in Texas now, and they hang out with all the old Zorlak guys, which is quite funny. Craig Johnson's still around.
Has he still got dreadlocks?
No, I don't think so. I think he's got short hair now.
Yeah.
At some point, I think your old roots in your hair. When you get too old, you can't hold the dreadlocks anymore.
Yeah, the weight.
Too heavy.
Yeah, it's probably.
Hi, it's Toby here, your mum's favourite presenter from the Brain Drain Show. I'm here to talk to you about Rollersnakes, and I've got an absolutely fantastic double-digit discount code to give you, so stay tuned. Rollersnakes was founded in 1985 by Sir Paul Haynes, which makes it one of the UK's oldest skater-owned stores. Rollersnakes stocks all the shit-hot brands, including Adidas, Brixton, Carhartt, DC, Element, Independent, Levi's, New Balance, Palace, Polar, Santa Cruz, Spitfire, Thrasher, Volcom and Vans, and many, many more. At Rollersnakes, there is a free-to-use indoor skate park, indoor mini-ramp, and outdoor skate park, which I designed, and it's really good, and everyone loves it, and if you don't, then you suck, don't come here. We also put on numerous events throughout the year where you can turn up for free and win loads of prizes. Rollersnakes have given us a discount code for Brain Drain listeners. Enter BrainDrain10 at checkout for 10% off your next order. Minimum spend £30, terms and conditions apply. Go to rollersnakes.co.uk and buy all of your stuff and things immediately, if not sooner. That was me, your mum's new best friend, and I'm looking into the camera now and hopefully looking into your mum's soul. How is your mum? Tell your mum stop texting me. Over and out. Goodbye. Sorry, what we were talking about the first run of boards.
I went down the wormhole again because of the Pacer thing. Yeah, the first boards, they didn't sell very well. It was like there was a lot of hate going on. It was people
from skaters,
who
didn't like Deathbox as a whole.
Couldn't get the head around the idea that I was a pro,
right?
That I was turning pro. Which I didn't really see it like that, but of course, you got pro, man. You can't do that.
I guess back then there was very few pros.
Yeah,
I mean now everyone's
everyone's pro now.
Yeah, I think thinking about it at that point, there were in the 70s there were pros, and it was a big thing. Benji boards and all that, but in the 80s it was coming up again, so there wasn't.
Yeah.
I think Sean was the first pro in England
because he had a board on Brand X.
Brand X. Yeah. Where there were various different models going on there and stuff. So it was a big thing, and we had sort of like seen the Southbank guys were hating on it. Shane O'Brien wasn't too keen. It was a pro, man. You can't do that. And Lucian Hendricks, and a few other people as well. And then so Slam City Skates had like a board or 2 boards there, which just stayed on the wall for a year. You can imagine why. But so that was a lot of hate going on there, and it was kind of I had a few problems with it and stuff. But it's just the way it was. But at one point it really took off. And
what was the turning point then? How did it go from boards being on the wall for a year at Slam City to probably to the point where
they were selling elsewhere, and it got more and more and more.
Yeah.
And then we brought Mac's board out. At that point, he saw that it was going, and we decided. And he was a bit stubborn with the shape, because the shape just wasn't like what was wanted at that point. But it still sold. I mean, it was so iconic, and having a Hitler graphic is just that's Mac. I mean, he had this to explain. He brought this Hitler graphic, and it's like, it's Hitler, and it's obviously Hitler. I think we took the swastika off. I think there was a swastika, and then we took it off. Was it? I can't remember. There was a big thing about the swastika.
There was on the Deathbox video, on the Spirit of the Blitz, on the blimp.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was also a problem.
We're talking about this graphic.
Yeah.
Oh, best of luck zooming in on the World of Skateboarding website. How was it? So when you started, how was it being distributed? Was you traveling around doing it yourself? And
it was Jeremy had a company called DC Supplies.
Okay.
And
DEESEE. DC.
Yeah. Nobody ever spelled it properly.
Yeah.
And he would sell. He was sending stuff from Buckingham in the garage.
Yeah.
And then we got with Joe.
Joe Burlow, Phase 7.
Joe Burlow, nightmare guy. Because we had a lot to do with Joe Burlow, because he was managing the team for Brand X. So I was in England, and you'd have to go and beg to get him on. And we realised he was selling the team boards as well. He was like, you'd go to him and he wouldn't give you any grip tape.
How many boards were you getting when you were on Brand X?
As many as Joe Burlow could bear to part with. It was like you didn't have a spare board. If your board broke, you'd have to go down to London and go and beg to get a board.
Was this because Joe had Eat at Joe's Skate Shop, 72 The High Street, Waltham Cross?
Very good.
Which turned into Phase 7.
That's obviously
so,
you obviously looked at that ad and
so many times,
and you could just order without not looking at it. Yeah.
Well, we used to go there. That was the first skate shop. That and
hanging out at skate shops.
That and Custom
culture.
Riders in Hitchin. Custom Riders.
Okay. Yeah.
So sorry, was that before Joe? It was Eat at Joe's, where it was just a distribution kind of thing.
I don't know.
Phase 7.
I think he was always distributing. I think he was always distributing different things.
Yeah, because he had H Street, Planet Earth, Life.
Which we could have been a really big thing, but it was a bit useless actually.
Yeah. And then Blueprint was through their Panic, and Blueprint was through Phase 7.
So that was So I think he was distributing the stuff, and I think, but most of the time it was just Jeremy, sending stuff out. And at one point we moved to Wellingborough, the holy Wellingborough factory, which was that was crazy. It really was crazy, because I decided at some point to move up there, and I say move up there, we would sleep in the factory. Talking about a situation where it was a old 1900s built factory complex, which was built, you could rent different parts of it, and we had this one part of it, and we'd print stickers, skateboards, send stuff out, work all day, go and get something to eat somewhere in Wellingborough, which was obviously culturally and best place to eat. There was a McDonald's, and there was I think it must have been a McDonald's and a couple of local cafes, which normally close too early for you because when you're working, you come out and you can get. So we'd have something to eat, hopefully, or drive somewhere to get something to eat, and then we get the air mattresses out and sleep in the factory, the cold, damp, filled with screen print fumes.
I was going to say the fumes must have been something else around then.
We were high all the time.
Yeah,
we were,
because that stuff is not good for you.
I'd go. We had a guy upstairs who printed T-shirts, and he did all these. He did all the T-shirts and all the textile stuff for us, and we had a range of stuff where we actually ordered the material.
Cut and sew stuff.
Got it. Yeah. To kind of get away a bit from the factory, I would go out there and smoke a joint with him every day, and it was like, it was sort of like, you know, basically you're changing one poison for another. Yeah. But at least it's a change, you know. Yeah. So I'd have to go up there to make our screens because he had the facilities to burn screens and stuff. Yeah. For all the screen print for everything. So I had Jeremy didn't know, but he did at some point. I'd go up there and do a screen, and I could smoke a joint with Jamie, who was the guy who did that. So that was quite. It was sort of like a little break from the drudge, you know.
What? So give me some kind of idea, if you can remember, like how many boards were being produced at that point for Deathbox, and how many T-shirts?
It got quite wild. It got quite wild.
Yeah.
The T-shirts. It was, we just ordered them from Jamie, and he'd bring a box down, but at one point it was really, there were stacks and stacks everywhere. It was stacked up to the ceiling, and it was pretty wild. Yeah. How many things? Because I was printing and sending stuff out. Jeremy's brother was like the salesman, and he would be on the road. Right, and actually selling, going to Skateparks and saying, "Do you want some of this? We've got this on offer and whatever."
Yeah, I mean, one of the first Deathbox ads, Rollersnakes is listed as one of the stockists. It's Rollermania, Rollersnakes, Slam, and a few others. Custom Riders are on there as well.
We did a demo
at the ramp.
At the ramp, yeah. It was. I think it was in the back of the shop or something.
Yeah,
in Nottingham.
In Nottingham, yeah. And then we skated the brick banks there as well.
That would have been Broadmarsh Banks,
which has now been redeveloped as a skate spot.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, a bit like Southbank. Yeah. So, there was a lot. It was wild. It was really, you were just like working all day, and we used to work like 2 or 3 times a week all through the night. And we'd go up to Jamie's and he'd give us a coffee, and then we just carry on working. It was absolutely wild. I mean, we were just leaving Deathbox,
Yeah. So was Jeremy paying you for being a pro and for printing and working?
Paying for being a pro. I mean, you're talking, you get £1 for a board, and then maybe you might be selling 200 or 300 in a month, which for a small country like England, where maybe 5% of skaters. It's there's not much that's going to be happening there, So it was, but what we did was we just paid our expenses that we were getting, like I think it was £50 a week, and we just said, okay, we're putting it into the company, and to be fair to Jeremy, he moved to America after there was a flood in the factory, and all the stock got done, and he decided to move to America, and that was like the flip change was before that, and then he decided to move to America with Deacon, so it kind of all collapsed, and there was no insurance there. I think they got insurance at some point, but and I was then in Germany, and about 10 years later. I hadn't heard anything from Jeremy, and I wasn't really thinking about the financial aspect of it, really. But I actually, I spent 2 years investing completely in Deathbox without actually getting anything from it apart from my expenses, which we were both doing. And he called me up on a satellite phone. He was in America. Flip was exploding. Runa was winning all sorts of contests. There was Molly was going off. There was Rowley was just coming to the into the fore and doing fuck off 20 feet backside flips to backside board slide over like amazing hips and stuff. And he said, "Oh, all right, Wurs." It was like, I actually talked to him for 10 years, at least. It might even be longer. And he said, "All right, Wurs." I was like, "Oh, all right, how's it going?" And he goes, "Oh, you remember you worked, in the factory and you didn't actually get anything for it and stuff, All right, I'm gonna send you $10,000." And the way he did it was he sent me a package of boards and wheels and whatever, and he sent me a longboard blank because I wanted to do a longboard and stuff. He sent it in the package, but the customs got hold of it, and so what's this, And it was a check for 10. At least it was a check. Cash,
I was going to say if it was cash,
So he sent that to me, and it was just like for him it was he couldn't do it before that.
Yeah.
But as soon as he got to the point
where
he did it. So it was like, and we didn't see each other. It's like he could have just forgotten it. I wouldn't have, complained about it or even thought about it. It was like completely out of my mind. It was quite amazing experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
He did sound fucking sick, didn't he?
Yeah,
sounds like a sick bloke.
He's so focused. It's weird. He starts working on even when Flip was really big, and it was like almost the number one company.
It was huge
in the world, He was still printing boards, and he was still. And Jeremy's a weird person. One story was that when we were in Wellingborough, he was like his brother was smoking like a chimney, and he asked his brother why. I remember the conversation. He asked his brother why he was smoking, and he said, "Oh, it just keeps me high all day." And Jeremy sort of like he was sitting there and he said, "I think I want to do that as well." And then within a month, he was addicted to cigarettes. He just started smoking. It's like everybody else gets, your mates have it, and you're fag on the way to disco and whatever, and you slowly get addicted to it. He just went, I'm going to do this. This is brilliant.
I want to do it.
This is brilliant. I remember him saying, "This is brilliant."
What if he's still smoking?
I think he might have given up.
When did you last speak to Foxy?
Probably about 6 months ago now.
Yeah.
He keeps threatening to move back to England because America's shit, and America really is shit. It's if you're not rich and you're not privileged and you don't have, you are basically fucked.
It's pretty shit over here.
You can work 3 jobs now. and you just have you have some kind of illness and your life is gone. You're financially completely gone.
If he's seriously contemplating moving back over here, what would you be doing with the company, keeping it stateside? And
I think
because Deacon's back.
Well, Deacon's in Hastings,
Deacon's
isn't
been
he?
back for quite a while.
Yeah. And is he still working with Flip? Has he got anything?
I don't know what the situation. I don't actually know what the situation is at the moment.
I think Deacon looks after team aspects. Do you know what after you just said that, Jeremy's, keeps threatening to move back.
Yep.
I'd fucking love it if Jeremy Fox moved back. He got a house with a garage on, and he started doing Deathbox reissues out of his garage like it used to be.
What Pete was saying is that Jeremy's idea, which I think is absolutely brilliant, is it to misquote a rap song, don't call it a reissue.
Yeah.
Because his idea is that it's not a reissue, just carrying on the production, which is, I think, a really brilliant idea, because you got all these reissues coming out, and they're actually not worth anything, because they're printed with modern, even some of them are transfers, and it's not a reissue, it's not really worth anything. You're only doing it for the money.
Well,
which is okay. We all like to earn money and stuff, but I think a reissue should be worth something, morally and physically. The actual, And he wanted to get the wood from
the original factory.
The original factory. There's a reason because that Flip became one of the best, one of the most popular brands. And his genius was picking skaters. That was his first thing. And the technical thing, knowing how to set things up and get screens and make screens and print boards and stuff. But his one big genius was picking. Look at the skaters that he found before they were big. Pete.
I mean, he was always in the mags. I mean, we said it when he was here.
Yeah.
It
always
was
in
crazy.
the mags.
It was crazy.
I was watching
loads of editorial.
I was watching that footage of him when I was editing his episode. I think it was the competition in Wigan or something. I'm not too sure. I think it was on like BBC or something.
Yeah.
Oh no,
I think
it's in
Warrington.
I think it's sorry, I got it completely wrong. It's a competition. I think in Germany somewhere. I'm not too sure.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, the ladies.
Stuttgart.
There's a woman and a fella in there like commentating it as he's doing his run. And the fella's like, Dossett's the only guy you're going to see doing ollie blunt to fakie on the vert. And he goes up, and I think it's a certain era of skating where you ollie into the blunt, and you don't just like pop up, pop out.
On
like,
vert, it was different.
He was
blunt on vert was completely different.
And he does it, and everyone goes nuts.
Actually, it was Pete who ollied into the. He had a feel for the board, which was just totally different to what other people. I mean, the things he did.
Aaron Dieter was rumoured to have been the first person to do the blunt, the ollie blunt. Is that true?
Yeah. Well, as far as I know,
that's proper skate nerd territory right now.
He's the first person I saw do it.
Yeah.
And you have to imagine I was in Essen in Germany. They had a corner wall on the street course, and it was 6 foot transition with 4 feet vert. And you're standing there and thinking, I could do like a cess slide around the corner, or I could maybe grind it,
Yeah.
And then this guy comes past you going, bam, bam, bam. You think, what the fuck is he going to do, And he just goes up. What did he do first? Rock and roll slide to fakie around the corner.
Yeah.
And there was a big hole in the corner as well. It wasn't like just,
there was a gap in there.
Yeah. And I thought, fuck, and it was Aaron Dieter. And he was hanging around with Monahan and a few other guys.
Was that where the link came with Monahan and getting a board out on Deathbox?
Monahan, they were around every summer in for like 2 or 3 years in Europe.
Yeah.
With Stephanie Person and Monahan were always traveling together, but they weren't actually. Everybody thought they were together, but they weren't, as far as I know. And Aaron Dieter was there, and a few other guys as well. And then the contest started, and he took his run, and there was like there were like banks, like really mellow banks, and he'd do he wouldn't just do a frontside ollie over, he'd do a frontside ollie to revert, over an 8 foot gap, just like that, and it's the first time he'd done it, and that was the first thing, and then in this contest, he did this board slide to fakie around, rock and slide to fakie around the corner and stuff like that, and all these weird things that you're doing, and every trick that he did, it was like nobody'd seen it before, and then at the end of his run, he said, "Oh no, I've run out of time. I want to try this trick." And when did an ollie blunt, it was like everyone was like, because nobody had seen an ollie blunt before, and that was the first time he'd done it on something like that as well. Yeah, he could do it on almost every quarter pipe anywhere. But it was just amazing. I mean, it was that was kind of a new era as well of because you had like the street skating going on, and big ollies and stuff, and that was like in another direction, sort of weird things to fakie, and then you'd like Mayday, and then grind to fakie, and stuff like that, and he was doing all that stuff like before anybody else.
His part, I'm sure he had a part in Zero Hero, the Zorlak video.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. It's such a good video.
He had such a like determined style. It was like you knew he was going. He was one of those guys. You just do it. And if you don't do it, he was always walking around with like a hipper. Or,
yeah, he was pretty gnarly, wasn't he?
Yeah,
from what I remember. Anyway, he had photos. I'm sure there was some pictures of him at Nebworth before that got bulldozed.
Yeah, he was doing like just go around, do like a board slide, and on the other side he'd do a Mayday and whatever on that gnarly concrete and stuff. He was.
We've spoken about Nebworth quite a few times on this, but
Nebworth was beautiful.
That
beautiful
snake
park.
run,
was really nice.
those clover bowls, and oh my god, it was.
You have PTSD over it, don't you?
Oh, I would just so badly love to go and skate that once more.
It's it was. There were a few skate parks that were built at the end of it. Was actually skateboarding had actually already died.
Yeah. And
the company that I can't remember what company it was, but they built those skate parks, and all the bowls were with flat bottom, with a good transition and a flat. You had a half pipe going down to it, didn't have a flat bottom, but probably because they didn't have enough space, But it was like 70s combined with 80s, like the new era coming, and that was new. And if skateboarding had carried on, then you would have had an era of people who were really, really good, because it was possible. You didn't have these rounded little bowls where you didn't have any reaction. You did a trick on one side, and you were completely buggered on the other side because there's no flat bottom and so on. Yeah. That would have really, you would have had a new real generation of skaters coming up. Which happened later, of course. I mean, Pete loved riding Nebworth and stuff.
Yeah, he had a lot of photos there.
And there was one in Wolverhampton. In Wolverhampton, there was we're going off in another wormhole here, but I like my wormholes. In Wolverhampton, there were two skate parks. There was one like Nebworth, which made by the same company, I think, with the flat bottom bowls and a sharp lip. It's almost coping, but not quite.
Yeah.
But the skate park was called Arrow. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It was a warehouse, and it had, I think, 3 or 4 floors, and it was like 79, I think it was built, and it was open for 2 or 3 years, and then it closed, and you could skate in there anyway. It was like nobody controlled it, and you could skate in there anyway. And it had a thing called the Drain, which was a half pipe with rounded out bowls. One of them was like half the edge, and you could skate through it and back again, and it was like 30 meters, and then it went round the corner 180 degrees and went back to the other side, and lots of half pipes, a full pipe they had in there. They had
all concrete.
No, it's wood. It was all wood.
Wow.
There were some fiberglass elements, but it was like and there's an iconic picture of Simon Napper taken up on this big. It was called a performance bowl. But actually, you could just go into it, ride up it, and come back down, because you couldn't ride it. It was it was built really badly. But there was this picture of him doing just a backside kick turner, but it's taken like Casimir style, like taken really close to the surface, and him just doing a backside kick turn. But it's so big, and it's just like one of those iconic photos. Mm-hmm. But that place was absolutely amazing. We used to go there every weekend.
Yeah,
we'd go there. I think Ali Bar used to go there.
I know Ali Bar.
Yeah.
Haven't seen Ali for a while.
Heard that name for a while.
Yeah,
Ali Bar.
Yeah. And there were, that was incredible. And we discovered, and this other skate park, which was there, was also closed down. So you'd be going on the train to Wolverhampton and riding 2 illegal skate parks on one weekend.
Yeah.
So that's the way things were.
How did that come to an end? Did they just shut it down?
I think there was a fire in the Arrow skate park. But that was quite interesting. It was at the end of the era, and they had their own company. They had I think it's called Technology Wheels, and you had people. Paul Constantino, who was a very famous 70s skater, and Jay Adams rode for them. And he came over and did promotions there at the skate park and stuff with these Technology wheels, and he had his own model wheel and stuff like that. It was like the end of where he probably wouldn't be earning money anywhere else. And there was this guy who was doing this in England.
Yeah,
it was really weird, And so Jay Adams was coming over and skating in England, which not many people know about.
Yeah,
there wasn't much,
Not much hype and stuff
no.
like that. Did you have a wheel sponsor, or were you just on the Deathbox Whirlybirds and Dodos? And
there were different. I think I rode you were talking about was the guy who did the lip slide at
Brian Pennington.
Brian Painter. He was sponsored by
Epic,
and I got wheels from him for a while, and then there were other ones. I think I got cockroaches for a while, Flowed and stuff. Awesome shoe. Going onto all sponsors, not just wheels. Awesome shoes, which was it was the one of the Van Dorens. The vans got bought up from someone, and one of the Van Dorens, one of the family, did these awesome shoes, which were going back to the roots and making them like Vans used to make them.
Yeah,
the origin. They were good. They were just like Vans. Converse.
Going
was cool.
Because Pete was on Going as well, wasn't he?
Yeah. We all kind of got. I can't remember how we were on Thunder before that. We were all on Thunder.
Yeah.
But that came from Brand X because Brand X had. But I also had a few other truck sponsors that were quite interesting. There was these. I can't remember the name now.
Not Z Roller.
No, not quite that bad. But they're a classic now. You can get thousands a set of those. They're incredible.
Yeah.
Nobody. I mean, all the Dogtowners were riding them, but not actually riding them. They were just pretending to. We were going on the history of Deathbox, and we.
Sorry.
Another. No, it's my. If at all, it's my fault because I got my wormholes. But it did get big. It was really. At one point, I'd met my future wife, and she was visiting here, and she came to England. At that point, I moved out of the Deathbox factory and moved to my mum's place in London, lived with my then girlfriend for a year. So she was near here, and after that, I moved back to Germany.
Was she? Sorry, is she German? Is that
she's German?
That's the link there.
We met at Meanwhile too.
Right. Okay.
They were they used to skate. Her and her girlfriend used to skate at the Tropica Skatepark in Hemsbach, which was just around the house, the road from around the next village to her house.
Nice,
and they were like checking out skate spots. So we met at Meanwhile too, which is quite amusing. So they were like looking at their map, trying to get attention to people, and we were like, friendly locals.
Yeah.
We would help them find the Tower Bridge and whatever,
Yeah.
So that was like, and shortly after that, it got to the point where we had this flood in the factory, and I'd moved to Germany, and then they decided to him and. Deacon decided to move to America and started getting that going, and then Flip went off. It went off pretty fast, actually. I mean, Flip was in existence before. Yeah. But if you've got a warehouse of wetboards, it's kind of difficult to do business. But that worked out pretty well,
Yeah.
Jeremy loves American culture and loves the food and Mexican food and whatever, And now he doesn't like it anymore. He wants to move back to.
Well, he's been out there a long time, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Let's get him back.
Yeah.
It's kind of about the same time as I've been in Germany, so it's 32 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he seems to he doesn't like America anymore at all. Jeremy got there, and it was I sort of suddenly I wasn't really reading skate magazines that much or anything, but then internet was coming in at that point. Where you had things happening, you'd see things on Facebook, and if you were interested in things, you would see it, and it was sort of like, what's going on here? This is going completely wild over there.
Yeah.
Especially with Rowley and
Penny.
Yeah, Penny, Rowley, Tom.
Yeah. But I think Penny went over there for a while. Penny's another, alcoholic. It's really sad, and combination of smoking too much dope and he has that history in his family as well. So it's very difficult for him to get out, but it's difficult to talk to him. He's not all there, But amazing skater. I mean, when you see I think the most iconic thing for me with Penny was the videos of the mini ramp in Oxford. There were different, because of SS20 from Mon Barber, and that the SS20 culture there, it made, there were, I mean, look how many, there were Tom Penny and Alex Moore were both from Oxford. I'm from Oxford as well, but I'm not really on their level. But and there was a big thing about Oxford boys make some noise. And there was a real culture going on there, and it really there were different mini ramp setups there. You know how it worked. You build a ramp, it gets a bit depleted. You haven't got enough money to get thing, and then the council come in and take it away or whatever, you know. But there was one. I saw one video there, and it was just incredible what he was doing. You know, he was just like going. He'd do like a heel flip to fakie. Nose bonk.
Was it where he's wearing the big baggy jeans? So that's from the Rollersnakes video.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Where Sean gave us the footage many moons ago.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Sean,
actually, Chris Haslam referenced that video part as well.
Yeah. It's just that run is just so. And
he's
for
doing
the
everything.
time as well, nobody else was skating like that.
Tiny wheels.
Yeah.
And he's doing 360 nose bone to fakie on the vert part of the ramp.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he does the late shove it to backlit reverse.
The thing about that video is the difficult trick to difficult trick transition. There's nothing in between. There's not an axle stall. There's not, you know, his safety trick is a mayday, a grinding mayday, you know, just incredible. He'd say it was such a level, and if he'd carried that on logically, it would have been just incredible, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was
so much more potential that.
Yeah, there was the
lived out
iconic photos and footage of him at Radlands on the vert ramp and stuff.
There's one video from Radlands, and it's just a short clip, and I don't know where it is. I can't remember where I saw it. Where he does, it's basically a big flip, a kick flip over the pyramid. But it's one of those things where you look at it and you think, that's how a kickflip's supposed to be done. It was like it was a flip, pulling it up with invisible forces, like catching it with the feet, and then you could see him adjusting the direction of the board in the air to land exactly 1 centimeter over the other side of the pyramid, and pumping for the next trick. Yeah, where you just say that's the height of skateboarding. And it doesn't get better than that.
It's not necessarily what you do, it's how you do it.
Yeah.
And Penny was the master of that, as was Shipman. Same with Jeff to an extent as well. You know,
I mean, the iconic thing for what I saw from Jeff was talking about this period where Flip had moved to America and things were blowing off completely. Was that one sequence? I think it was in Transworld or one of the American magazines where it's like a big pyramid, and there's a rail that goes all the way across, and he's ollieing with a fairly 3 or 4 feet high backside kickflip to backside board slide, and he's just like
it was just it's a Vancouver kickflip backlip over the driveway.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and rides out like he's just dropped off a curb.
But coming out with speed and already ready for the next trick. Where it's like, you know, get to that level, you'd just be so happy.
Yeah, but then Penny also did. It was a 4-1-1 opener, kickflip over a driveway to back tail slide down the other side, and he rides out like
like he's asleep.
But I mean, those, you know, I say it all the time, but we talk about Penny quite a lot on this.
I think he was sort of like the he really came from. He was very instinctive.
It's really hard to put into words and to people who weren't around at that time the effect he had on skating.
Yeah, because nobody else was doing it.
It was something else.
It was kind of like a Gonz effect. You know?
It was mind blowing stuff, you know. So, what are you doing in Germany now? Then, what is your trade? You still printing boards in a garage somewhere?
I'm not printing boards, but I'm printing. I'm a screen printer.
Oh, right, okay.
So you're still high all the time?
No, that's changed a bit, luckily. When we used to print in at Brand X, we'd have to have a mask on. It was bad. But no, it's changed a bit now. Especially in
health
Germany,
and safety.
Yeah, health and safety in Germany is much better than here anyway.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm in the pre-production, so I prepare screens basically, but I'm still basically screen printing.
So is that the link there where if the reissue thing happens, Wurzel's going to be in Germany doing the preparing the screens. They're going to be hand delivered to wherever Jeremy decides to come back and move to.
Yeah, I mean it's just.
Is that how it's going to happen?
No.
Okay.
No. I might do stickers. Possibly, because then it would be me printing the stickers. That would be an idea.
Yeah.
But no, Jeremy wants to do it out of his garage. He wants to. That's his idea. He'd probably need a bit of help because printing by hand is quite strenuous. And quite knackered. I mean, look at Don Bryder. He's got his wrists completely knackered not from skateboarding. It's from printing.
So in that time that you've been in Germany, have you been skating much, or?
Getting towards the age of 50, I had a few instances. I went snowboarding, and it's like, you're 48, you're going snowboarding, and you're skateboarding in between. It's not really the thing you should be doing, because if you go snowboarding and go skateboarding, you're with snowboarding, your muscles get all they get flaccid. It's really weird because from the cold and being in and then going skateboarding directly after that is not the good thing you do. And I was snowboarding, and we were coming down the last run at the end of the day, and it's like you're completely knackered, and I felt my shoulder pop out, or I thought it would popped out, and went straight back in again. And I said to my friends, I think my shoulder popped out. They said, no, if your shoulder popped out, you'd know it. I mean, you'd be screaming in pain. And then we went skateboarding afterwards in like a fun palace in the middle of the Alps, and did an indie nose pick and pulled up to jump back in, and my shoulder popped out. So I didn't even slam. So my shoulder, the muscles had got like really weak or whatever from what I was doing before. And combining snowboarding and skateboarding is not a good thing. I don't recommend it. Then I was, I had this shoulder popped out, and that really screwed things up for me, because it wasn't the fact that I was scared of getting hurt again. It was the fact that if I did because it's very difficult to regenerate the muscles after you've done that. When they're stretched, And I'd do a rock and roll slide round the corner in a bowl and kick out, and my shoulder would pop out. So it wasn't getting older, getting slower, your reactions are slower and whatever. I was still skating at a fairly high level, at least mini ramps and stuff. Wasn't skating street anymore. But it physically skating was resulting in injuries. And there were a few other things going on as well. Meniscus in my left knee, my back's. If you look at the X-ray of my back, you'd think, he's going to die soon. So it all that all came together, and it was like I was looking for something new. I needed something new, because I wasn't admitting that I couldn't skate anymore. Didn't want to, I'm a skater, I'm tough, there's I'll just work through it like I have for the last 50 years, and then friend of mine, my 50th birthday, my best friend, who's also a skater, who has been skating for 48 years now. He's just celebrating skating 48 years. He was on a podcast in Germany, which I just saw. And he bought to my 50th birthday. He bought a stand-up paddleboard. And we tried it the next day. And it became my new passion, because as a skateboarder, you see all these people on stand-up pedalboards, and they're like wobbling, and they have problems on it and everything. But as a skater, you stand on the board, and it's like it's
second nature.
No problem. And I found my new passion with it, which replaced skateboarding. I really didn't want to replace skateboarding. It's not something you can't even think about it. You can't. You're getting too old, and logically you shouldn't be doing it anymore, because I wasn't even slamming. I was doing a rock and roll slide and I was getting hurt skating and not even slamming, you know. So that was a fairly strong signal, which I still didn't want to hear. But yeah, and that replaced it for me. So it and kind of saved my sanity, because, you know, skating's such a we say a lifestyle thing, and for us it's just so important, and a lot of people don't understand it, even extreme athletes and, you know, people who have a passion for a sport. Even a lot of those people don't even understand the passion we have for skating,
100%.
and the dedication that we have to it, and that we don't want to give it up. They can't quite get that reach, because skating is different. It's really different. You know, I mean, I think it was Jay Adams that said that, you know, if you don't get old. Was it? You don't get old because you
stop skating.
You get old because you stop skating.
Yeah,
you don't
stop skating because you're old.
You stop.
You get old because you've stopped skating.
Exactly. And I think, you know, I can transfer that to other things too.
Yeah.
With stand-up paddling, it's more to do with nature and spending time on the water. And
I've done it. It's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Done it in the
SUP.
States.
SUP. Yeah.
Do you do tricks on it?
Kind of. It's kind of, if you've got a very small board and stuff, there are a couple of people who do kickflips. I mean, they're doing kickflips and surfing now, you know. But that's pretty high level. But there are certain things that you can do that are quite fun. But it's more about, for me, it's more about the adventure thing. And I you know, paddle hundreds of kilometers down the Rhine, and also, and camping and stuff, you know, like adventure.
Yeah.
And it really, I mean, skateboarding is an urban adventure, because especially street skating, where you know, with what other sport can you just go to a city, get out of the train station, and then just go and search for spots? You know, I mean, you know, it's like urban running is a bit like that, you know, parkour and stuff like that, but not in the same level, not like this. And people say, you know, I haven't skated actively for about, it must be 12 years now, 10 years. But, you know, I'm traveling here, you know, at the airport, you think, nice little transition there.
Yeah, it's always on your mind.
It never leaves.
I wonder if I could still do a Mayday on it, you know.
It's in your blood. It's in your blood.
It doesn't leave. It doesn't leave. And then, I'm really glad that I've found a way to replace that, because I would have been, you know, I was in quite a dark place for a while, because it was, you know, you need it. It's so important.
It's your life, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Before we wrap up, can we talk about these amazing stickers you bought in? Very kindly donated.
There are a few little stories there. That's why I bought the stickers, but they're for you.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Obviously, super stoked to actually have the Deathbox teapot sticker in my collection.
I'm having that diddy little.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And I'm also going to have the moon as well.
No, I'll have the Sean Goff Ghost Train one.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk us through some of these amazing
there's a couple
stickers.
I'll try not to go down too many wormholes. Victim streetwear. This is from an era when Vision streetwear was really big, and it was nasty. It was a nightmare. You had all these, especially for some reason it was really big in Germany, because it was like a fashion thing, you know. And you had your Vision, you had this like t-shirt with this on, and then you got the joggers, the joggers with it, which also Powell were doing with the skull things,
the shoes as well.
The rat bone
joggers. What was that one company with the skulls?
Skate Rags.
Skate Rags. No, I was sponsored by Skate Rags for a while. There was another one, American. Where it was just skulls and orange, and it was really nice. But that was a really nasty. And this was Don Brider,
the legend of Don Brider.
The nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
He did these victim streetwear stickers, which were just, I mean, you know, it photocopied and filled in with a red marker, you know. And this was, everybody wanted these.
Yeah.
It was all like an anti thing to me, and people understood it completely. Victim streetwear, yeah, that's actually a bit shit. And it went wild. He did all the stickers. Back then, I don't know how it is now, but back then you'd have a sticker throw or a board throw contest, and the sponsored riders would throw a board out, and people would fight tooth and nail for it. There were injuries, you know. So this was like a reaction to that. That was like a really nice period, and they did that was with Jed Wells, who does the Insane. You know the Insane, Mark, and they were all together. It was like the Isle of Wight and Southampton. It was like they did weird things. They had a zine called Florian Bohm and Crossed Out Converse. This was like sort of like state of consciousness thing, and they had really funny stuff going on. That was a really cool scene. RAD, yeah, that was Read and Destroy. That was an era where there was so much going on, and there was because it was this era where there was a lot of hype. It was the first sort of real hype in skateboarding. And the first in the 70s was okay, but there were sort of weird things going on. There were people just buying everything that was that had been recommended by the magazine, and that was part of that. And that was Nick. What was his name? Nick. There's a guy called Nick. He had his own. He's famous in Japan now. He's got his own company going and stuff. And he had a thing going called Anarchic Adjustment, and he had some really iconic T-shirts. He had a Anarchic A, which was printed black on black, which nobody had done before. It was like color and color that you could only read it from a certain angle. He also had, he sponsored me a bit. I got a few T-shirts. He had this Nelson Mandela. It was a black T-shirt with a white relief printed on it, Nelson Mandela's face. But it was like massive. It was like this big. When you wore it, it was real, like in your face. Yeah. He had stuff like that. Really nice stuff that he did. Pretty cool. Crowbars.
They were the rails, weren't they?
They were the rails. We had at the factory, we had the actual production unit, and then there was a corridor outside, and then with this radial arm saw, and we'd cut the what's it called? It's high density polymer plastic, and we'd cut them by hand on this radial arm saw. It was dangerous. It was really dangerous. If you got it wrong, like the rail that you were cutting would get out and go through the door. There was so much power going on there.
They were chunky rails, I remember as well, weren't they?
We had 3 different sizes,
right?
And there were thin ones, the medium ones, and the thick ones. And I quite liked the thick ones because you were really good to grab, and and they didn't wear down so much. They were pretty cool, and you were doing like gnarly things in the street and sliding on things that you're not supposed to slide on. They were really good. But there was also a fixation system like that they had in Powell later, and Jeremy was very innovative with that. And they slide into the rail, so you didn't have any holes in the rails. Normally on a rail, when you were sliding different stuff, it would you get a groove where the hole is for the screw, and these screws they had inserts in them, and you would come from the top of the board, so you could actually slide really well on them. You wouldn't get any grooves in them. Jerry was very innovative. He also did our second wheel that we did got stolen by Powell. It was Crossbones, the small one. They had the big tall ones and stuff, and then it went back to like 60, 65, and these are Crossbones. He sent that drawing to one of the wheel companies because you had various wheel companies that would make wheels, press wheels for you, and print them and stuff. And he sent them there. We sent that drawing off and said, how are we going to do this? How are we going to print it? How's it going to? And 6 months later, the Crossbone came out and had the same measurements. That's the way in the 80s, that's how the skate industry was working. They were crazy. Yeah. And in America, they had this culture of you don't do anything wrong, it's just business. You can be the biggest cunt in the world, but it's okay, it's only business.
Yeah.
I heard a rumour that maybe Jeremy Fox is coming back with a rail brand.
I don't know anything about that, but I haven't talked to him for a while.
Specific
so we don't have
rail brand. Maybe he's going to reignite that mounting system.
That could be the case.
Because he's been, like Fury trucks and things like that. He's always been a little different,
Richter Wheels as well. He was behind he was behind Richter Wheels with the
the speed
the
rings
cores,
and the
cores,
cores. Yeah.
because cores are very deformation when you ride. If you're to have a good running wheel with a good spacer, could they be ride? Do people still ride without spacers?
Yeah, people don't care about that stuff anymore.
Because I've had that situation where you got you need a precision axle. You need a core that's precision as well. And you need a spacer that's the right
Diameter,
width, and it has to be all precision, and you have to have the right washers, and you have to have the right bearings, because if they're like some bearings are like ABEC 9 when you get them, and one ollie and they're ABEC 3. If you have that combination, it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
that is, but it's difficult because with street skating and stuff, you ruin your bearings anyway, so it's not really worth it. But if that's all together, it lasts for ages, and they go way faster than anything else.
Yeah,
and they don't even have to be the best bearings. Jeremy's this is from Don Bryder.
Yep, claiming that one, the Don Bryder Moonchild.
This is so iconic because you have brands where people someone has the idea and everything, but this is 100% from Don.
Yeah.
And he worked in the factory and with Jeremy, and when Jeremy went over to Flip went over to America, he started his own thing, and he did this as a t-shirt, and it was 90s, and the t-shirt was like arms about this long, really thin, like almost skin tight, and then the t-shirt went down almost down to your knees. But it was also quite thin as well. And then this thing on it, and I always remember I hated the t-shirt the way it was on my body. It would make me sweat, and I couldn't move in it properly, but because this was on the front of it, I loved wearing it. It was just so iconic. That's Don. He's got, he's just a lovely guy.
Wait, hold on a minute. We need to talk about who's sponsoring this episode of the Brain Drain Show, the podcast that you're enjoying listening to right now.
Consume.
Today's sponsor is Consume Clothing. Toby, take it away.
You must consume.
Consume Clothing is from the mind of Death Skateboards boss man Nick Zorlak.
Consume.
Nick has been involved in the skateboarding industry for decades, and Consume Clothing is his new project.
Consume.
Nick's going to be working with some of his favourite photographers and artists, the first two being the very own Toby Batchelor.
Consume.
And the second one being Chris Bork.
You must consume immediately, if not sooner.
Consume Clothing is made from a high-quality organic cotton which has been ethically and responsibly sourced.
Consume.
In the first drop, you can expect hoodies, crew necks, long sleeves, T-shirts, stickers, and there's lots more to come.
Consume.
And make sure you head over to consume.official on Instagram for more information. Links are in the description. Now, Toby.
You must consume.
We're going back to the show.
Should we talk about, let's talk about the Sean Goff Ghost Train.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that one. That's an iconic
good
graphic that Sean had.
Do you know any other history of that?
No, nothing at all.
It's a really,
could you just show it to the camera so we can get a reference what we're talking about?
This graphic went through, I think, 3 skaters. I think we were thinking about it for Pete for a while.
Yeah.
It was actually done by a graphic guy who was in the building.
In Wellingborough, yeah?
In Wellingborough, yeah.
Right.
I think we were thinking about it doing it for Pete, and then we were talking to Anders Pulpanek.
Anders Pulpanek. Haven't heard that name in a long time.
No, he was real iconic. He's been around almost as long as Klaus Grabke, and they were in the same area and stuff. And he was really going off at that point, and he was riding for Titus, who was not really promoting him as much as he could have done. And Jeremy we were going to the Munster Master Championships, which is quite. I mean, it's amazing that 10 years. For 10 years, the World Championships in skateboarding was in Germany. It was weird. I mean, there was amazing things that Titus was doing. You can tell lots of bad things about Titus, but he was really promoting skateboarding. And we were going over to that, and Jeremy was talking to Anders, and it was kind of, do you want to ride for us or not? And he was really into it. He was like, "Oh, Deathbox, brilliant," because he'd been riding for Titus, and Titus is really conservative. And, or it was at that point, and it was sort of like there was a real German culture there, and it was not like there was no anarchic skateboarding going on there. You go training every Thursdays and Tuesdays and whatever. So Anders was really into it, into the idea, and we went to the Master Championships, and Jeremy got the graphic changed with Titus with Anders' name, and he gave him the 2 boards because he got 2 boards, and there was only the 2 boards that had been printed, and he gave them to him, and Titus saw it. And
lost his shit.
Suddenly, it was that was quite little mini story to that. Titus was doing an interview with German TV, and we, as the whole Deathbox team at that point, he was doing a live interview on TV, and he had like this little his hair in like a half man bun at the top, but he was bald on top. We all went past and patted his head as we went past and waved to the camera. The whole team was like 7-8 people. And he was really pissed off with us. He was really, really pissed off. The other thing we were doing that time, we had these teapot. You imagine the teapot in a metre by metre square. We were sticking those on the ramps. And he was getting really pissed off because they were bigger than his Titus stickers. And it was his contest. And
you weren't official sponsors either.
So he was really, really pissed off. And that was like the last straw. So Anders said he's riding for us. He really wants to do it. And then the next day, it was announced that Anders has his own company on Titus. And that was his reaction to that. It was like, oh shit, I'm going to leave. I'm going to lose him, and they're pissing me off. I'm going to hate them anyway. I've got to do something, And nothing really happened with that. It wasn't anything in the trap. The graphics were awful. And Anders, I met Anders about 3 or 4 years ago, and he said he really, really regretted doing that. He really wanted to ride to death, and it would have been magic, it would have been really cool, getting into Europe and everything and stuff. And, but that's the story to that graphic. That's pretty damn cool. One more.
Yeah, let's go for.
This is quite a funny one.
Yeah, go on. Then.
I think everybody, even modern people, know this.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been doing the reissues and everything. When this came, I mean, this was like everybody had this sticker and everybody had the T-shirt at that time. It was like totally, because it's just like a very. I don't think it's a very good graphic. I don't think it's very well rendered, and I don't think it's Jim Phillips. I think he can do way better than that, But it was somehow iconic of the time.
Yeah.
And the thing is that this goes over so many generations that my daughter now at 15 has that on her T-shirt because it's been reissued, and she was asking me about it, and I would have preferred to have a Teapot T-shirt, of course, but she wanted she noticed that in her Instagram world that this is a thing, which is quite amazing. So that's in this sticker is 35 years old,
probably more, I think.
And now my daughter's wearing a T-shirt with that on it, which I bought for her. It's amazing how the culture keeps going and the iconic things.
It's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Just last thing. So, what else have you kept from back in the day? You mentioned the first pro model with the sticker on it.
Yeah.
Have you got like rails, the wheels, anything like that?
Because
the collectors out there the collectors will want to know this stuff. They want to know details. People
write to me and
they love this shit.
Normally I don't answer because it's like it's just. I have a bit of a problem with that collector thing because you have these, I don't know, what would you call culture wankers? You have these people who they've got these things at home and nobody ever sees it.
Yeah,
and I'd prefer to like give things out somewhere where they've been seen to a museum or whatever. So you get I get a lot of people. Writing and saying, "Oh, have you got another board? Have you got?" And they don't even say hello. And if they don't say hello, I just completely ignore them. But it's like the first sentence is, "Have you got a board?" And they might say hello to you after that. And I think, I know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of this collector culture, and I think it's really, Yeah. And the prices went way high for a while. They've come down again now. It's not as bad.
Yeah.
I have got one thing I've got which is quite funny was when we started doing the Dodo wheels, we got some samples, and it was the 80s. So you can imagine, I mean, the Dodo wheels was a very bright graphic anyway. I think it was 6 or 7 colours. There was blue in there was green in there, yellow and everything. You know, it's like a in-your-face graphic.
Yeah.
And of course, because it was the 80s, Jeremy said, "Oh yeah, get it done in neon."
Yeah.
And it's faded a bit now after 35 years. I've got this one wheel. It was the prototype wheel, and it's horrendous. It's really unbelievable because it's a bright yellow wheel, and then all the colours are in neon, all of them. I mean, the black is black, but otherwise it's just like, you know, eye cancer. And I've got that, and that's something that I'll never ever give her, because it was I remember we got them, and then Sean came to visit us in the factory and looked at the wheel, and we were like really proud. It's like, look what we've got here. And he said, "What the fuck is that?" Get normal colours and just forget about that. And we were like, yeah, actually, he's right. And that's one of those moments where you think, like, you know, you think you've done something really brilliant. You know, you've had quite a lot of success. The boards are selling well and everything like that. And then we started doing the wheels, and you think, yeah, you can make such a really. I mean, it probably would have sold anyway. You know? But he was right. It was like, you know, you need someone else to come in and say, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, that was
nice.
That's one of the. Yeah, that was one of the things that I have, like, I look at it now and then and stuff. And I've got all 3 sizes of the rails in a package with the crowbar stickers and stuff, because that's kind of, you know, we made those by hand. You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of
I don't think I ever had the crowbars. I had whirlybirds and dodos. Me and my brother. Did I have whirlybirds and he had dodos? One or the other. Yeah. But yeah, we were big Deathbox fans. Our crew, everyone loved it. You know, it was good times. Very nostalgic.
It hit a note at the right time. It was quite amazing, and it was you know, it's Jeremy just he had
he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
He had his visions, didn't he?
The riders that he found. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, he found Rowley when he was 12. Yeah. You know. I remember being at the Munster World Championships, and there were in the car park there was a mini ramp, and he was like this, you know, Sean had big jacket, the trousers, the tiny wheels, and he was doing like 3 foot out heel flips just like that in the middle of a run, you know, and I don't know exactly what year that would have been, but it was like people were just walking past and going, what's going on here, you know?
Yeah, they really.
He was tiny.
They made people shit themselves. Those guys, Penny and Rowley, they really did. They came, and they really made an impression. Yeah. So
there's a lot of jealousy going on there, especially you know, I mean the people that he found, you know, the riders was. I mean, he started with Pete. Sean was like a go. You know, we were talking to him for a long time, and that was something that had to happen. Yeah, because we all knew each other anyway, and it was kind of, you know, Mac was just, you know, I mean, he was capable of winning every contest that he went to, and sometimes he just, you know, too many super teas. You know,
was that his drink of choice?
Yeah.
Fucking hell, proper alcoholic then.
It was. I mean, it was unbelievable. He was a professional in that on that side of things as well. It's incredible.
On that note, should we wrap that up?
Yeah. I think that's.
Do you reckon the Deathbox collectors are going to be happy?
I think we've adequately.
There's a lot of stuff in there.
I think there's enough material.
I think we've adequately redeemed ourselves.
No, they'll still moan about
the Deathbox group. Anything that we've missed?
I think all the criticisms that we voiced in the Deathbox group after the Pete podcast have been redeemed, as far as I can see.
Okay. Well, maybe
you were just being on your good behaviour because I'm here, but I think you it's nice the way you do the podcast. It's professional, but not too professional. And
I was going to say I'm more offended when someone says it's professional. When you said it's not too professional, good.
I think there's
needs to be too pro, do you?
I think sound is very important in a podcast, and having like vibrations going, as you said, No.
Which Deathbox? I didn't put that there to annoy Pete. It was to stop this. Listen. That don't sound good now, does it?
And it
Producer
deafens my
Fraser's
ears
like,
when you fucking do it.
It's still.
No, I think talking about that. I mean, just to explain, because a lot of people probably don't know it. When you did the podcast with Pete on the Deathbox group on Facebook, a few of us made critiques. Which
and can I just say we loved it?
Yeah, we
had a right laugh.
They loved it, but it's in the way things are set up nowadays with modern culture and people being offended and stuff. If someone criticizes you, it's an opportunity. You should see it as an opportunity, and I think it's very important to have discuss about things, being able to say your opinion without offending someone else, and I think it's very important in nowadays. And this podcast came out of that, and that's it's something positive.
Because it could have been, we could have said, "What do you want to come on the podcast?" And you'd be like, "No, fuck that." But where's the constructive criticism and learning more from that?
Yeah. And if I wanted to criticize you, the best way I could do it is sit here for 2 hours and do it. I mean, if I wanted to.
Yeah.
So
maybe that's a part two.
Maybe
that's a part two. So if anyone feels like we missed out any subjects they wanted to hear about, talk to Wurzel.
Send it to Duncan, not us.
One more thing.
Here he goes. He's going to insult us now. Isn't he?
No, I'm not. Talking about the social media thing, and I think it's very important nowadays, and I see it with my own kids, and with my influence and my help, they're doing well with their social media and not using it too much and whatever.
Yeah,
I post a lot of reports about the tours that I do on my stand-up paddling board and stuff. And people talk about when you go on social media and you have an opinion and you do things, you're setting yourself open for criticism.
Of course, yeah.
If you come with positive stuff and you're 100% positive as far as you can be, 100% positive, you will get positivity back.
Mm-hmm.
I can say in honest truth, I have never had any really negative stuff on social media because I try to throw that positive stuff out there, and it comes from my heart, and people know that, and that's important. And people don't realize that they're putting positive, negative stuff out there and wondering why they're getting negative back. Go positive. It's the way.
There you go.
Well, I was going to ask you if you had any words of wisdom, like we ask everyone, but you kind of did that yourself. So
yeah, I tend to do that. You have to, I'll never stop. So it's good that you're stopping it now, because otherwise we'll be. It'll be getting dark.
Well, if you want,
thank you very much, Wurzel.
If you want to say, I'm Wurzel, you've been watching the Brain Drain show.
To that camera.
Yeah.
You can sign us off.
So what have I got to say?
Your name, Wurzel. And this has been the Brain Drain show.
I'm Wurzel, and this has been the Brain Drain show, and I had a really good time. Absolutely.
Sounds like we're threatening you.
I love it.
He's got a gun held to his head.
Keep watching.
Thank you very much. Round of applause.
Cheers, Wurzel.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
I loved it. It was brilliant.
Right, let's go print some Deathbox stickers.